laughed aloud, said they saw nothing obscene. Flat Earth was rising up, no more round world talk. Like unicorns in space, dancing Bigfoot's moonwalk. Aliens cheering on, popcorn in their hand. Telescopes pointed out to this misunderstood land. Scientists scratching heads, can't believe their eyes. Failed experiments so grand, now nothing is a surprise. Blasted into space with no sense of time. Wandered through the stars, caught in a paradigm. Reality shattered like a broken dream. This is not an experiment, or so it seems. Wild creatures on the floor, laughing at our trials. They wanted something more. The final try was epic, but oh such a bust. Left us spinning in the dark, crying more stardust. Oh, the theories got crazy, tangled in the lore. Round a flat now's a debate, settled nevermore. The truth lost in fiction as we float this blue sphere. Unicorns play with aliens in unending cheer. Scientific minds so boggled by the scene. Complex calculations turning poles into beams. No one saw the downfall in all the grand design. The experiment so grand, now nothing.
Yo, Flubs, what's up? Good to see you all. Thank you for coming. Glad you could make it. We are joined by Janusz, Michael, Jeff, Roger, and PJ. Woohoo! How you guys doing?
Yo.
Oh, good. Loving the collage. Loving the collage.
I decided to change it up a bit for tonight.
It's beautiful, and that was a great song, Flats.
That was brilliant. I was bouncing away a little bit. Love it.
But yeah, it's good to see you guys all to be here. This is part 2 of TFE failing very bad, which they really did. We're going to go through the second time part of Steve's video. Hey, dude. So, how has your guys' day been so far?
Oh, good. Not too bad. I did a little stream earlier. I think it seemed to go all right. Oh, you turned up at the end, didn't you? All good. Apart from that, I had someone turn up at the door earlier to sign something for Kenzie for my son to do with his meds and that at the school he's in. So that was gone.
Peach, I'm not getting notifications for your shows, man. I'm not.
A lot of people ain't. It's just one of them. There's nothing I can do is that. I'm always on at the same time. Dude. It's either 2 p.m. or 8, on a Tuesday, 8 p.m. You know, in the afternoon it'll always be 2 p.m. for me, GMT-ish. Sometimes you're going a little bit early. Like today, I went on 10 minutes earlier, or sometimes quarter an hour earlier. Sometimes I'm 5 minutes late. So I have to be early now and again. You know.
Yeah.
PJ, you've never been late for a stream ever.
No, never.
Never.
Make up for it by doing over more time at the end. You know.
Why not?
Blooming hell, my longest stream so far is 9 hours. It's
crazy.
Yeah. But, I mean, there's not a lot of talking involved when it gets to the third movie. You know what I mean? You're just sitting there watching it, chilling. By the third movie comes along.
You got me beat by 3 hours. The longest stream I've ever done, 6.
Without the movies, it's been the longest I did was 6 hours. Yeah, without the movies.
Nice. I just want to give a shout out to Michael Kahn for his super chat before we even started. He says like and share. So guys, please like and share. He paid £5 for it, so don't let it go to waste. Really do appreciate it all. You guys.
Yeah, I was going to send one, but I'm almost overdrawn. It wouldn't let me do it.
Smash the plates, man.
Save up for an Antarctica, man.
I know. Don't skin yourself just to send out a super chat, bro.
But I was going to say, okay, bro. If I'm moving in my mouth, I'm lying.
Yeah. Because Roger's still got his GoFundMe up to go to Antarctica end of the year, guys.
You need to put the link in, Roger.
Help him, maybe
yeah,
help him.
Put the link in then. Let me go get it.
Because I haven't got it. So if you give me the link as well, then I can put it on my streams as well.
But yeah, I'm very close to 5K. Let's see how much exactly.
About 40 people to go. 30 people. 30 odd.
I think it's 38.
38.
Yeah, 39 people.
Mm. So you just, that's brilliant. You hit
Hey,
there.
guys. The poll so far stands at 75 votes. TFE should be renamed Duffy's failure. Yes, 59%. No, 41. Ooh, quite close.
It was doomed from the start. I mean, they began with a deception and it ended up in deception. It's simple as that. And it's been sussed. It was sussed before and it's sussed now. And they made it sus in the middle. You know?
This is the GoFundMe. I'm sticking it in chat for everybody.
Nice one.
There we go.
Thank you.
Roger's
I'm
GoFundMe.
up to $50 in the GoFundMe, so I'm getting rich fast. So all
Yeah. Woohoo! You can buy 5 loaves of bread. Okay. So you guys ready to carry on? Got a few bit to go through. I did invite Steve. Hopefully he will show up. Be great to see him. See what he has to say.
Steve blocked him. Yes. Was that possibly wrong? Yes. He was in Antarctica. There could have been issues with signals. Yes. He was in Antarctica. There could have been issues with signals. Yes or
This
no?
would be entirely boring for people
Steve,
watching.
no, people are
Can we
fucking
move
loving
on?
this. People are absolutely loving this. They are loving watching you squirm, frankly.
I'm not
right?
squirming.
Oh, you are
One thing
squirming.
I have to say, why do they always do this?
I know.
Always squirming. It's like that idiot guy, scuba dude last night.
But squirming is fight the flat earth on a debate when he looks like a pigeon.
They're telling you that you're squirming, so you're conscious of yourself. What do you mean I'm squirming? I ain't squirming. What you talk? It's because you become conscious of it then, and then it makes people look. It looks to the people like you are squirming because he said so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're doing the joke what they do.
It's made in the purpose of making stronger argument
Of course.
and putting person off track. And then it's exactly the third, the most important thing is lying. And the people who are in a cult of personality, they believe it because he's a guy who always says the truth, you know. So I take it as a fact.
I think the prime example is Charles when the guy from Drunken Debunk show. He was squirming like him. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, he was definitely squirming.
I just want to say something that was odd. Last night, remember the guy he had to leave to go ride horses or whatever? Well, he had a show on the Drunk Debunk show afterwards.
Straight after.
No. It was at his night, but my very early morning, so I caught some of it. Well, anyway, he never went to ride horse, and he watched our show.
So
he lied.
Exactly. Wow. So he was going to. So he could have actually sat there and spoke to solve.
So he could have come back on and spoke to us. So in other words, he just made excuses and ran.
Yeah.
Well, don't have him back on then.
Let's for now give him benefit of the doubt. Maybe he had something.
When you talk to Mike, a lot of things they said, I was like, "What's wrong with you people?"
Madness.
So he pulled a Duffy.
He pulled a Duffy.
Yes.
Like I said, all they were trying to do was try and get a got you. In the meantime, they just showed what an idiots they are. They don't even understand what displacement is.
Yeah, just one of the stupid crappy tactics again.
He just likes sailing, man. That's all it is. He just wants to go sailing. Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
You are squirming because I've caught you in a lie. I've explained why it's a lie, and you're lying about it being a lie. Okay, right. Here we go. Take a deep breath. Both of us, let's take a deep breath. Ready? In. Come on, let's do this together so we can both calm down.
So condescending.
Right, work with me here.
I'm not wrought up.
Right, yes you are.
Felicia.
I want you to do this with me. Just take a deep breath. Both of us will take a deep breath. Right, and I'm going to
Pateron.
calmly ask you the question, and I would like a rational.
I think what's going through Steve's head right now is this guy's insane.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with him. I wonder if he's taking his medication.
Yeah.
I would say no, he hasn't taken his medication, and there's definitely something wrong with him.
Yeah. Steve's telling him he's not wrought up. So Craig's saying, yes, you are, because he's trying to get him wrought up. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Calm response, okay?
I'll give
Deep
it
breath,
to you
ready?
3 times.
After 5, we breathe out. Ready? Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out.
He's really looking at him like he's got a mental illness.
Yeah.
Okay, your heart rate should have dropped by about 10 to 15 beats a minute with that one breath. Okay.
My heart rate's about 45 beats a minute because I'm quite fit.
Nice.
I can see
I like
by your
it, man.
face that that's not true. So now that your heart rate is lowered enough, and maybe the rage inside you at being caught lying has subsided slightly,
He hasn't even flinched the whole
within
time.
the agreed time.
Yes, but by that time, I'd seen the outcome. Of
The
what
word
was
is
in the
seen. It's not sin. The word is seen. There's 2
Yeah,
E's there, not an I.
He did the
Okay.
scene.
Listen, that's his local dialect.
See?
That's how he says it. Simple as that. I seen it. It's just his local dialect. He's being a prick.
It's
Okay,
not,
you know what?
Craig's never a prick, dude.
You know what? I've had enough of Bob now because the guy's literally just trolling now. Bye. You're at
Oh,
point
Bob's
time,
here?
10 minutes.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
Because he still doesn't get there is no experiment. We don't need to do anything because he's the one that claims Earth curve. So he should provide the evidence for Earth curve. It's got nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
By the way, I watched a funny video today of him claiming, let's take a tape measure and measure Earth. So he uses undersea water cables. And what does he do? Let me put it this way. Bob, let's measure using a measurement. Also, Bob, let's calculate.
He's just coming in saying the same
Oh,
thing.
God.
No, but he won't come in and talk, but he'll come in the chat and say the same crap every day.
He had his opportunity last week Friday, so
Yep, he did.
now all he's
Bye-bye.
doing is he's literally been really obsessed with me lately. He's made like 7 videos with me in the last 3 days, or something like that.
Nice.
Very sad.
Roger typing again.
Yeah.
Bong, 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 bong.
I just had to say hi to Bob. Sorry.
Bob, I had it. B-O-B.
Bob the fallacy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, hit the likes, share the show. Please, it really does help to hit the likes.
Like Mr. Bean said, Bob.
Seen. Seen.
Guys, I've got nothing to hide. This shower that went out onto the ice, they're like a stick of rock. They've got liars written all the way through them.
On the other side of the spectrum, somebody who's crossing their arms may be an expert. They may be very knowledgeable, and they may be wise, and they're trying to show that through their gestures. You often see this on business cards. But always create a baseline. Always check the environment to look and see why somebody might be crossing their arms at any given time.
Oh, we were wrong.
Yeah, if you look at the language, yeah. Godzilla, thank you for your $5. He says almost 2 months now and still only 1 of 8 24-hour sun videos are available. Thank you for the super chat, Gords. You rock. Appreciate it. Yeah, there's so much dodginess to all this. We haven't really seen much of what they really claim to present. Because all they are doing is trust me, bro.
Yeah.
That's practically it. So it's quite telling.
Someone should count the gates, how many gates were there, because I lost count. People
Mhm.
all the time come with something new. It's like
Chocolate came up with 7, I think. Altogether.
17, weren't it?
all right. I think it's more.
Another $5 from Gonzalo. He says, also today's Arwen's B Day. Be sure to send all your super chats that were for him to Flatzoid. Thank you very
Nice.
much for your super chat. I really appreciate the support, Gonzalo. You rock. Is it really his birthday today?
Is it?
Lord knows. Well, I couldn't even remember when his birthday. I've been in. I remember being on his stream once when it was his birthday, but Lord knows when it was.
But thank you again, Godzilla. I really appreciate the support, man. You rock.
I mean, if something doesn't just pop out of the blue and all of a sudden the sun sets or something.
Also, check the thermostat. They may just be chilly.
Really?
So that was the first half hour or so, which gives the viewer a brief introduction to some of the shenanigans taking place on the ice. And we now move into part one of this two-part series. And it's important that we consider what is a biblical cosmologist and what goes through the mind of a biblical cosmologist. Why do we think the way that we think? As was said at the beginning of the video, context is key. And context for this whole flat earth, globe earth debate is paramount to grasp if we're going to move forward with a good understanding of the flat earth phenomenon. So this next 3/4 of an hour is an old man rambling through the woods, interspersed with some video clips and some imagery that is designed to have the viewer thinking about things in a slightly more deeper way. And
Nice.
I hope it's constructive and I hope it's helpful. So enjoy the ramble through the woods.
Nice.
I like this part. I watched it the day before. Nice.
I haven't watched it. It's still fresh for me. Why
You
do
like
we
it?
think the way we think?
Good morning, fellow YouTubers. My name is Steve from the YouTube Flat Earth channel, Flatter Than Flat.
Hey, dude.
My handle is Hey Dude, and it's Hey exclamation mark and then DUDE, which I took to stand for Down Under Doesn't Exist.
All
Ah,
I do is when I see that, I just think of, hey, dude.
yeah, me too. I think it's. I didn't know. That's fair play. Down Under doesn't exist, dude. That's good. I like that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
clever.
I got one for you right quick. Coming this November, Shenanigans on Ice. The best hit piece ever.
Now that doesn't mean Australia doesn't exist, but what that means is that we live on a flat plane and there's no such thing as down under. There's no land down under.
Outward
We
bound.
live on a flat plane. So that's my handle. And I'm walking through God's glorious countryside.
Looks nice and cold there.
And I'm walking on my way to church this morning.
I don't see his
A lot of
breath.
people in the Flat Earth community, they don't go to church. They read the Bible. They believe in God, but they say that because the church isn't really switched on to what's going on in the world, and that in many ways the church is asleep. But I say that we should be going to church because God calls us to be in a place where we can worship God together and we can be salt amongst our brothers and sisters. And also church is a good way of us being able to have our sharp edges smoothed off.
I agree with him and I disagree as well.
Yeah,
It doesn't help you going to a church which is not Holy Spirit filled, which is not teaching biblical scripture.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of churches out there today that I would say is not really based on truth.
Yeah.
It's more like a business.
Yeah.
But do find a local church. It's good to have a local church community. I do agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's good to go on our fellowship and that. But I mean, it is getting harder and harder to find something that will sit with your doctrines properly because there's a lot of crap being brought into the church lately. You know what I mean? A lot of secularism and other religions, you know? It's kind of hard to find one that sits right. It's okay just having a few things going, but if it's major things, you know, then I wouldn't go. But you're never going to find a perfect one. Of course not. But I get where he's coming from. I'm like you. I agree and disagree at the same time.
Yeah. But it is very important to, at the end of the day, you don't need a church. It is good. It does help to have fellowship and stuff, but at the end of the day, have your Bible. It's about your relationship with God. Going to church is not going to make you a Christian, just as sleeping in a garage doesn't make you a car. So, yeah.
Well, he digs in a little deeper, Flat, so give him a minute.
We'll get there.
The bits where we think we're righteous and we think that we've got better understanding than anybody else, none of us are perfect. And a body, Jesus has designed his church in such a way that people of all race, colour and creed, all backgrounds, can come together to worship God and support one another and learn from one another. And that's something that I place great importance on. And sometimes I do pull my hair out at some of the attitudes in church, and especially towards people who are appear like me to be on the edge and wacky, and we've got strange ideas. We don't fit into the norm, and that's something that we have to live with. It's part of our calling, that we're not phased, because God gives us our strength to stand where we are, and we obey his word and his calling on our lives. And the calling that God has given me is to stand at the breach and talk about things and warn people about things that are hidden, that are in plain sight. And that's how Lucifer works. He's a deceiving angel of light, and what will appear as truth isn't truth at all.
Yep, that's exactly that. And I just want to bring a parallel to that with Duffy. Duffy is acting like he's this brilliant light, this Messiah,
Messenger.
messenger to the Globers. In the meantime, he's just a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he's literally playing the same role that Satan plays. I'm sorry to say it, that's exactly what he's doing.
He's no pastor. He's definitely not. I mean, he might be ordained, fair enough, but he's no pastor. He shouldn't be in a position of pastoralship.
Nope.
Not at all. I mean, the traits he's showing is exactly the same as what was just spoken now.
I mean, the way he talks about himself, I have done this, you know what I mean? I'm the salvation. I'm your guy's salvation to get you out of this cult you're in.
Remember, if you're a flat earther, you're poor, man.
Oh, of course.
You need to spend live streams a long time at all. You should. You're not gonna make money like that.
I will beg the differ.
Yeah.
Hey.
I don't have to work.
Good to see you, Annie.
How's it going?
Is now a good time to ask a question?
Yes, sure. Always.
The guy that you were talking to last night, the guy with the beard, very polite guy, yeah.
Not
what
polite.
What was his name?
Drew.
He was very polite. He was patronizing, but in a positive, friendly way, right? Because he was saying things like, see, I'm just curious because da, blah, 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 da, da, da. And he'd always start off by, I'm just curious. But obviously he was leading you down a path and he wanted to get to his gotcha. Now, interestingly, I had the exact same conversation with another guy on Tinternet. What's his handle on YouTube, do you know?
No idea.
Because I had the exact same conversation. It was almost like it was mirrored, parroted, almost as if. I'm not saying it was the same guy, but it was probably the same guy. And he was getting to the point where he was like, so obviously, if you've got a mass, some kind of mass in a medium, and then you remove the medium, why does it even accelerate at all? And my answer was because it's the perfect example of disequilibrium. I know that there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum. So that sentence translates into there's no such thing as perfect disequilibrium, because the binary number of 1 will be a perfect one. So if they say, well, there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum, then there can be no such thing as perfect disequilibrium either, because they are one and the same thing. And he said, well, why does it even begin to accelerate it at all in the first place if there's no medium to stop it? And I said, because mass has its own weight or inertia or its own, whatever word you want to use to describe weight. Mass has got its own thing by virtue of its own existence, right? And he said, yeah, but isn't it convenient that it always goes in that direction? And I was like, well, let's try flipping it the other way. Instead of saying, let's remove the medium, let's just vary the mass. So we start off with a 10 kilogram mass and we cut it in half, so now it's 5. We'll keep the mass the same in terms of how it looks, but we'll just reduce it down so it becomes more like instead of a golf ball, it becomes a ping pong ball. And we keep cutting that mass in half and in half and in half again until we get to a point where the mass becomes massless. And it ain't at that point, like there's no such thing as a massless mass. Although light is kind of a massless particle, if you want to accept what they tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you were to keep the medium the same, but change the density of the matter in question, so that the mass of that matter becomes 0, you've basically got a big light photon. And what happens with light in a vacuum? It still portrays all the way through it. So it'll still bounce around in all directions because that's what light does. It bounces off things in the same way that gas particles do. But ultimately, you're demonstrating the opposite. And when you do it that way, what they then do is they say, oh, let's not bring light into it. It's too confusing. Conveniently, right? But by changing a physicality into light particles, even though it might be a big light particle, it demonstrates the same point. It doesn't collect and doesn't pool on the floor, does it? Why is that? Because it's got no mass. So it's obviously caused by the mass itself, and the acceleration is caused by the fact that mass is not a 0 value. Because when it is a 0 value, it doesn't pool on the floor, does it? It bounces around like a gas molecule does. But that's where I had the exact same conversation with him last night, or with somebody that sounds suspiciously like him. And that was the only way I could get it through to him. And in the end, he just said, let's not talk about light. It's too confusing. And I was like, well, that's basically my win, isn't it? See you later.
Yep,
Just to
exactly.
correct you on one thing, there is massless mass, and it exists on a globe Earth.
Where? Only in the maths, though, right? Massless mass exists in the maths. Everything exists in the maths, but for them, it's real if it exists in the maths, though. That's the big problem.
The thing I was saying earlier. I saw a video with Bob, the fallacy guy, where he's like, well, flat earthers always want us to measure things. So I'm going to show you we're measuring Earth. And then he talks about the undersea cables, which is flat Earth anyway. And then he says, okay, let's measure this. And then he starts doing calculations.
Yeah. I mean, Bob, the fallacy guy, says flat earthers always want us to measure things. Actually, measuring is quanta, and we're not asked about quanta. I'm not sure which flat earthers he's referring to when he says that, but we're happy with no quanta whatsoever. We're just happy with the effect. So it doesn't matter how much of anything. That's why I said when I did that egg test, I'm going to measure this here with this device. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't really know what it is. I could be measuring unicorn farts. It don't matter. It's not important. What's important is the effect. So let's not measure things the way that he says that we all insist that we do. We don't really need to measure anything. There are going to be examples where you need to measure it. I'm not going to use that as a blanket statement, but we're more interested in causing the effect. So forget about measuring and quantifying. Start wiggling and causing the accelerations. That's what we want to see. And if you think that you can cause my egg, for example, to accelerate without varying the density and do something else instead, well done, you're going to introduce a whole third variable that no one's ever thought about, because we know that pressure and temperature and things like that do cause the mediums to vary their densities, or matter to vary. Like steel, for instance. A lot of steel, ball and socket joints are created by heating up one part and freezing the other part, so that you get expansion and contraction in the metal. Put them both together, let them get back to the room temperature, and then they've got a nice tight fit. Stick a bit of lube around it, and then you can stick that on your car, and it'll not fall apart. Your steering will not fall apart. We use heat and expansion and cold and contraction all the time to vary the density of stuff, and that's engineering, right? So we know that these things that are affecting the density of objects, and the plimsoll line is probably the best example I can think of, where a boat is going to accelerate downwards due to the change in the density of the water around it as it gets towards the equator, the warm Caribbean waters and the tropical waters of the Caribbean, compared to the North Atlantic waters that are around the United Kingdom. It's cold, it's dense. In the tropics, it's warm, and it's not.
And that's why they have to work out their cargo weight very specifically and place it in a specific, because otherwise they'll sink, or they will.
Well, let's not call it sink. Let's call it accelerate downwards, because they all insist that, like, that's what is happening, right? The boat will accelerate downwards as the medium around it begins to get less dense, because it's warmer. It's got less salt in it, apparently. I don't know how true that is, but we do know that water changes its volume by up to 5%. by varying the temperature. And we see it with boats. So like boats will accelerate down just by changing the density of the medium. And that includes or accounts for the fuel that's been burnt and by the boat on its way down there. It's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. It's burning more and more fuel, but it still sinks. Relative density explains that perfectly. Plimsoll lines are proof. They have got no explanation for that because on their model, aside from the fact that centrifugal forces are supposed to be pushing the boat up as it gets towards the equator, they say that as you're getting around the bulge, you're getting further away from the Earth's center of gravity, and you're getting less heavy. So you're getting further away from the center. You should be getting rising out of the water.
Well,
but the inverse is actually true real world.
I've actually got a video to play, you guys. Do crayons float or sink?
Crayons.
Do crayons float or sink? I don't know.
I'm going to show you guys.
Wax in it, so I guess it would float.
Okay, you guys see this?
It would sink.
You're wrong, Anthony. Sorry.
Sink.
Okay.
Sink.
Okay, just look. Okay, you guys can see this. Okay.
Hi, my name is Dr. Judy McDonald, and today we're going to explore a question, whether crowns sink or float. So let's get started with today's experiment. What we have here is a box of Crayola crayons, a bowl of water, that's about at room temperature, and then over here I've removed the paper from the crayon so that it won't influence our sinking or floating. So
you heard that? Remember, that's what I liked what she said there. Removing the paper so it won't influence floating or sinking. So that's a control, correct?
Control.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, looks like I may have to eat some of those crayons. Yeah.
Do you know what she said that I didn't like? She said the temperature of the water is pretty much at room temperature. Well, I can guarantee that room temperature is going to be at 23, 22 degrees Celsius, whatever it is. I don't know. But I can tell you that water ain't going to be 23, 22. It's going to be about 15, 16, maybe 20, perhaps, if it's lukewarm. But they're not quite the same temperature. But I'm majoring on a minor there. But anyway.
Yeah. But you got to see, this is... this is actually for Mr. Scuba Drew last night because he didn't understand what I was saying with displacement. You're going to see it's quite funny.
let's get started. I want you to think for just a minute. Do crowns sink or float? What do you think? Make a prediction. Okay, let's get started.
Okay, let's do the prediction. Do they float or sink, guys?
I would say they sink. I don't know for sure. I've never tried it, but to me, in my mind, they just got to pop. I bet I'm wrong.
Can I think they'll float.
Don't tell me they're going to be.
Can I request that we change our terminology? Can we say, instead of saying do they sink or float, can we say, are the crayons more dense than the water or are they less dense? Because that's really the units that we're talking about here. And my prediction is Crayola crayons will be less dense than water. Let's see if I'm right.
Start with the blue crown. What do you think? Is blue going to sink or float? Make a prediction. Oh, that one sank. Well, we have many other colors, so let's give them a try with a different color.
Okay, now they get you to try different colors, though, guys. Come on.
Yes, so colors are going to float.
This is going to be interesting.
Let's try yellow now. And let's see. Go ahead and make a prediction. See if you can decide whether this is going to sink or float.
Float.
Ooh, that one sank too. Let's try red.
This is pretty cool because it shows how deception works.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Red floats.
This is interesting because it kind of shows how deception works, right? Because, like, I'm not saying she's being deceptive, but you could quite easily argue, oh, look, red, brown, blue, pink, yellows are all different. So it must be the color of the mass. And obviously it's not.
Well, you're on the right track, Anthony. But I don't want to give it away, though, because this is exactly what my whole argument was towards to Drew last night. And I love this because a subscriber sent me and is like, we should actually show this to him because it's very funny. Because if you've paid attention, you'll understand why the one's floating, the other one's sinking already. But
I think
try and keep it to your mind without saying it yet. Type 1 in chat if you think you know why the red one's floating. And type 2 in chat if you think you know why, if you don't know why. So
do me a favor.
Or two.
Do me a favor. Before you go any further, just rewind it to that first blue one where she puts that in. I want to compare how she puts that in compared to that what the third one she just
you just caught it out.
Yeah, that's what I was
You just caught it out, Anthony.
That's what I want to see.
It looked like she put that one in very gently.
You just caught it out. That's
Because the
exactly what it
second
was. It's got to
Yeah.
do the surface tension.
Because the second one she placed in and it's floated for a second, but then went down. It's how she put it in. I was thinking kind of along that line.
That's
You got
exactly
that,
that,
man.
because
You
she
got
takes
that
all of them, 3 of them sink, 3 of them float. Then she does it again, and the 3 that sunk float, and the 3 that sink float. Float still.
Right. Yeah.
So what she's
the
doing
surface
is
tension
playing on
for
the
it.
surface tension to make it look like it's density related, but it's really not.
Exactly. Look, she can explain it here.
Now,
Anthony,
relative
you need to talk to
Set it
critical
down
think.
Yeah. Look,
Anthony, you
very,
need to give him a lesson.
very slowly and have all the length of the crown hit the water at the same time. You have a lot of surface area for it to float on. But on the same notion, if I take this and I just put one small portion and try to get it to float, it won't, will it? It sinks. So can you now answer, do crowns sink or float? Well, sometimes yes and sometimes no. And the whole reason is surface tension and the
factor.
interesting. So the densities, the crowns are denser than the water. But the displacement of the crayon keeps it afloat because of the surface tension. Interesting, because there's enough force being pushed back to keep it up. But yeah, I liked what you said in the beginning. Is she being deceptive? Actually, yes. Because she was trying to say, look how, she didn't want to say how you put it in. You had to try to figure it out.
See, I don't think she was being deceptive. I think she was being like misleading on initially, but she weren't trying to deceive. She was
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She wasn't trying to deceive, but it was a deceptive trick to it because I was
But can you imagine?
No, make her point. She want to show us the point.
Can you imagine if there was an equivalent example that you could do, and instead of it being the surface tension that was the voodoo, imagine it was gravity that was the voodoo. They'd all do that to prove gravity, even though they knew it weren't gravity and it was actually surface tension causing it. They would do that.
Yeah, but you see, this is the whole point of this thing. The globers always take observation and experiment or demonstrations or whatever, and they say, you see gravity. But always the independent variable is never gravity.
That's because the independent variable's got to exist, and it can't exist. It doesn't exist.
There we go. You got it.
Have you seen the 3 bowling balls? Have you seen the 3 bowling balls in water test where you get a big fish tank?
No, do you have the link for that?
Yeah, just type in, search for bowling balls demonstration. It's a cool science experiment. You'll find it. It's from a guy called I can't remember. Just read them out to me when you find them.
Floating balls, cool science.
Yeah, that one. And then scroll about halfway through, and then you'll see. Yeah,
it's in a fish tank.
Yeah, fish tank. It's got 3 balls, right?
Go
about halfway through, just after halfway through.
3 balls.
So you've got 3 balls here, right? Now they're all bowling balls. They're all the same. The bowling balls have got to be the same size for them to be a bowling ball, right? So the size is fixed, but the mass of each volume is not variable. And what he's demonstrating here is that if you get, it's like the same as a golf ball and a ping pong ball, you can have 2 volumes that are the same size, and by varying the amount of matter in them, you change its disequilibrium ratio, as you would, as Brian would call it, or Flatzoid would call it. I would say it just demonstrates relative density. It doesn't change any ratio. Ratios don't do anything. They're mathematical. But if you change the amount of mass in a bowling ball and keep the volume fixed, it behaves differently. Oh my God. But in their world, these masses are all, if you apply weight is mass times the acceleration due to gravity, right? I don't know what these masses are, but they're all subject to the acceleration due to gravity as well. And by putting it in that medium, they all got different effects. But the masses are all going to calculate out to be pretty much the same thing. I'm not going to, probably a bad example of this because there's better examples to use. But just play this and show the effect. And it's really cool because Spangler, that's the guy. It's really cool to demonstrate how fixing the volume and varying the mass is relative density. That's literally demonstrating it, but they will never accept it.
Yeah.
in circumference. So, so they all have to be the same, and I didn't realize that. So the only difference is the amount of stuff that they put inside, so the density of the bowling ball.
Okay.
So here, for
the only
example,
difference is the density, as you said. So one's denser, less, but they're exactly the same size, same everything in water. Okay.
well, hand me the 12-pound ball. There's the, see, look at, there you go. Here's the 12-pound ball. Float or sink, what do you think?
Sink.
All right, let's take a look and see. Float or sink, and
Float.
look at this. Oh,
floating.
Even
it
once
is
all the air came out of the hole.
This is the amazing weight.
It's only
everybody
just
asks,
floating,
what's
though.
the weight? The 12 pounds is the amazing weight, because 12 pounds is almost exactly, if you calculate the density of it,
Right.
almost exactly 1. And the density of water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. So
That's interesting, huh?
Keep doing
Where's
it though, 'cause
gravity now?
he does the other two. But here's the best thing about it though, right? If you fix the mass and vary the volume, let's say they're all 10 kilograms for argument's sake, right? I know they're probably not, but say for argument's sake they were. If we kept the mass at the same, 10 kilograms, but we vary the volume, if you apply the formula of weight is mass times acceleration due to gravity, you've got 3 examples of 10 kilogram masses. The volume is varying and the effect is different on all 3. Yet in their equation, there's no consideration whatsoever of the medium, of the density of the medium. So they should all have the same effect because they're all 10 kilograms. They're all subject to the same acceleration due to gravity. Yet that demonstrates that it doesn't work, and they won't accept it.
No, they won't. But remember, at the end of the day, they're always just going to make an excuse saying it's gravity doing it anyway. Why? Because gravity. And you say, okay, what is gravity?
Force is not a force.
Yeah, force that's not a force that has some weird connotations to think it exists when it doesn't exist and can't decide what it has to be.
But this is where, when I put those 10 definitions for the independent variable in the beginning of it took up half of the video for that egg test. I did that for a reason, because I knew that they would vary, or they would change the meaning of the cause, and they would imply it anyway. Even though you see me doing something, they ignore what I do, and they say it's something else causing it instead, which is what they'll always do, because it's got to be always gravity on their model, even though scientifically it can't be, and it isn't the thing that you infer. It is the thing that you vary. Well, you can just deny science all you want. It doesn't change the fact that it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the amazing weight. So here, take a look at this one here. Let's take a look at the white one. The white one is 16 pounds.
Okay.
So grab that 16-pounder. Oh, good. Now, you and I will just toss it back and forth for fun later on, all right? So
Sounds
absolutely no problem at all. The 16-pounder sinks with no
Okay.
problem at all, just because its overall density is greater than 1. So it's really at about 1.3, somewhere around there. And
Okay.
this is an 8-pound ball. Again, the same size,
Right.
but this is an 8-pound ball.
And it's gonna
So
float.
it sits over here. It really is. Watch this. It's no wonder
Oh,
that
yeah.
floats. So if you're looking for a bathtub toy for your friend,
Yeah, it's just densities.
Yeah.
let's see if there's big enough for.
There it
see,
is.
See, they're all jockeying for position in there. See
Yep.
how it,
And I want to say, what I love about having all 3 in there, why is it that the black one, which is supposed to be neutrally buoyant, okay, so it's supposed to be middle, is being pushed down? Oh, because the other ball, which has less density, is hitting and pushing it down. So it's not gravity pushing it. It's literally it can't take up the same space.
Yeah, it's also a demonstration of lateral displacement as well, because as you're putting that third ball in that doesn't quite fit, the other 2 have to spread out, and you're demonstrating lateral displacement. And they always say, why is it up and down and not left or right? And this is a demonstration of it.
There you go.
Yeah, but just like entropy is a natural law, okay, relative direction is part of that natural law. But they want us to accept things like gravity just because they say so, but you can't accept natural law for what it is.
Gravity schmavity.
Gravity. I mean, if God didn't create everything with a natural relative direction, everything would be chaos, would it not?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
So there's a way things work for a reason.
If it makes a surface for you to dwell atop, then the system is inclined for you to better stay on that surface.
And this is also why I do think when they come and they claim floating in space in 0G space, it's a violation of God's law because you're violating how God created order. So it's literally a perversion of God's order.
This relative direction point that you just made, this was the biggest gripe I had against Bob Nodell, because Bob Nodell insists that there is a universal up and down, and all the ballers do that as well. They insist that there's a universal up and down, which may well be. Who cares? It doesn't make any difference to this. We're talking about relative directions, and the relative direction in this instance is more than or less than the density of the medium. That's why I said let's not talk about up and down, because like they're human specific terms, and if there was no human there to observe it, you wouldn't have a description of the way these things are moving. You'd have to talk. If the bowling balls were able to talk, do you think that the bowling balls would say to each other, I'm going down relative to you, or I'm going up relative to you? They just say I'm fatter than you, and I'm thinner than you, or I'm heavier than you, I'm less heavy than you. That's relative directions is exactly what we all experience, but the vast majority of the directions that we talk about are relative to the human. That's where the up and down come from, the human.
Exactly. I just want to say thank you, Godzilla 37. He says, "Happy birthday, Arwen. Don't spend it all at once." Thank you very much, Godzilla. You rock. Appreciate it. I don't think Arwen watches my streams anymore, though, so but appreciate it. You're awesome. By the way, if there are any Globies in chat, you're more than happy to come and talk to us. We are happy to have a discussion with you on this topic. You don't have to run away or play keyboard warrior. If you feel you have the insight to come and educate us, so-called ignoramuses, then come and do so.
I don't see any hands.
I don't see any hands either.
No cojones.
No cojones, but let's see what he has to carry on saying. Does he get to morph TFE stuff on you? I don't know. Oh, he does.
Not really, Flats. He doesn't do anymore. That's it, for the most part.
Oh, okay. So it's more or less just saying things are faked.
Yeah, he's just going into his church life and his daily life for the most part. It's pretty cool. It
Okay.
might not.
So I'm gonna link it for everybody. Everybody can watch it on their own time, because he's gonna bring out a part 2 as well.
Cool.
Definitely. Yeah, so no, Globies are far too scared to come have a discussion with us. That's a given.
Usually only the ones who are insulting other people are coming. The rest doesn't have straight backbone. And those who are insulting, they don't have as well.
See, those that are not joining because they're Globies. They're not actually Globies. They're just internet trolls, and they've got a delusion that they believe strongly that the Earth's a spinny waterfall in a vacuum. But when challenged, they can't contain their behavior, and they come in like an overreactive.
I kind of get it, because people, we all were programmed the same way as they are still now.
Yep.
So only difference between us and them is we are asking proper questions, and we are challenging the stuff which they were teaching us in primary school, secondary school, and further. So, and they were challenging stuff which is all the time perpetrated on the screen, everywhere, Hollywood and so on.
Yeah, but these trolls we deal with, that's not just indoctrination.
They choose to be that way, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Guys, by the way, I'm sure we can get to 100 likes. Only 40 to go. We got 59 likes. Come, guys. Got 130 people watching. I'm sure we can get 40 likes. Please hit the likes. Share the show. This is these guys again. They're doing soda cans now. This should be interesting. Want to go through some of that? Float or sink? Sure. Why not?
Sometimes you don't really even know what you're drinking,
Perhaps. And there's few kids that don't love soda. They will
Yes.
try and beg and negotiate
Everything,
and,
and
plead
yeah,
for a
absolutely. So this is kind of fun. Just a tank of water, all right. And notice all of our cans of soda just have a nice variety of Coke and Diet Coke and Pepsi and Big K and whatever. None of them have been opened. All right,
No.
so they're all
Interesting. Would you think there would be a difference in density within there? Probably, because one's got more sugar, one's got less.
Yeah.
So I guess so. But it won't be much difference there.
all the time the same.
As well, they have gas inside, yeah. So the bubbles.
Mhm.
So that's another thing. Another thing is we don't know if it is prepared or not, because maybe you have seen previously how the guys create. They have like a bent can of soda, and then they unbend it and they pour the water or drink from it because there is a small hole in it. So we don't know exactly what's going on with those. I don't
But I
trust.
just-
I just don't trust and just don't assume. Okay, they are fair and square. Nope. I'll challenge everything.
But I just want to point out for the Globies that's watching this. Do you notice that this is a container holding water? These are all containers holding gas and liquid in. Why is that?
Water
I
has to be
thought-
a container.
Yeah, why don't they just let gravity do it? Why do they need the containers?
Yeah, make sure you ask Globies or trolls. Can you go and make us a cup of coffee, but without the cup? And then watch how they get confused.
No. My favorite is asking Sean Hawkins to go buy a bucket of propane.
But without the bucket.
All right.
Okay.
So, question for you: if I take the can of soda unopened, float or sink?
Sink.
Why?
Yeah.
See, I didn't.
I
you
don't know
didn't
because there's still stuff in it.
Okay.
It's-
There's stuff in it. Good.
Right. There's still.
Okay. Good. Right. Nice.
Right.
How about Big K? Float or sink?
I'm gonna say sink.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay.
Now, did you have parents that used to throw the can into the swimming pool and then you had to dive down and get it?
Oh,
and
that's
it kept
part
us
of the
busy?
big
Yes.
swimming. Yeah.
thing for
Are
4th
you-
of
Okay.
Absolutely. So that one will sink as well. And then if we try the Diet Pepsi, wow, there must be
Wait a
an
minute.
air bubble. That's what it is. There's an air bubble. And oh my gosh. Wait just a second. Kim, out of all these here, which one's going to float? Which one's going to sink? There's a Diet Pepsi, there's a sparkling water, and a grape. Which one's going to float?
The diet is going to float. No, why would they float?
Less sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, sugar's quite dense.
Sugar,
That's
less
quite
sugar.
dense.
That is the reason. Less sugar.
Yeah, because they use saccharin, don't they?
They use
Sweetener.
aspartame. Yeah, they got
Same
aspartame.
saccharin, artificial sweeteners, but all of them are less dense than sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As well,
Yeah, of
depends
course.
how much air is inside the can, because they are not like different brands. They do not have the same level of liquid inside. They slightly differ.
That's so true.
So
That's so true.
Well, then I'm going with the diet.
Let's go for
Okay,
it. Drop it
let's
right
try
in there
it.
and see if you're there.
It is.
That's just, is
Okay.
it? How amazing is that? Isn't that kind of fun? Now, there's not air bubbles underneath there. It really is floating. And so the general rule here is that everything that's diet will float, everything that's regular will sink.
Sink.
So try that sparkling water.
what I
just
wanna
to see
know.
if that's,
Let's see
there you
what
go, float or
happens with
sink.
the-
And we get a little floating action that's there. So what?
Sparkling water, so it's kind of neutrally buoyant with the water around it,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense.
What's the difference? And I asked a group of 4th graders, what's the difference? Little girl, in all honesty, says it's the calories. This has 150 calories, and this
True.
has no calories at all. And calories don't really weigh anything except for
Which is
the
not true.
holidays, and they do. What's the big
Yes.
difference?
Yeah.
all of them they have calories. There is no
Yeah.
any drink without calories. It's just total BS.
Yeah.
like-
It's just
like
lower
time.
calorie.
Like time's an arbitrary thing that man have made as a concept. They insist that time is an independent variable. Well, applying their logic, calorific content of these things can also be, because they're both concepts. They don't actually exist. What he's going to conclude that it's the sugar.
We don't know exactly what time is, to be honest. No one can really
Well,
say what it is.
Conceptual, it doesn't-
But you
it
know what?
doesn't-
I always fight against time as an independent variable, because an independent variable has to physically be manipulated.
Yeah.
You can't manipulate time. Time
you
can
can-
only be used to control.
Yeah, and if it's a certain time you did something and you've got to replicate it, like you said, you can't replicate the exact
Already
same
passed.
time you had before. Yeah.
Yeah, the time has passed already. That's what I
Yeah.
say. So if I, for instance, did the experiment now at this point in this date, it's gone. It's done. I can't go and do it again because it's passed already. That's why I don't agree when you get these journals saying time's an independent variable. I disagree with it. Time is a control because you usually use time as a duration for something.
It is, but the real reason why time can't be an independent variable, aside from the fact you'd have to be Doc Brown to be able to vary it, right? The independent variable's got to be a physicality that exists. It can't be something conceptual. In the same way that speed is miles per hour, speed does not cause accidents. The guy that's driving too fast might be causing the accident, but speed itself it's an arbitrary thing that we've designed. It's conceptual. You can't have a concept that's a variable that you can vary and manipulate. You're doing something else that's causing it, but the concept of time and the concept of calorific intake or calorific quantity of these things, they're arbitrary, man-made things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, time is actually a man-made concept. It's just a reference point that they've made. That's all.
Yeah.
I think Roger's struggling to stay in because he keeps dropping in and out. Okay.
Difference between the two. If you look
Gotta
at the
be the
difference,
sugar.
got it. Right? So how much sugar in here?
I don't know.
A lot of sugar.
Lots.
39 grams of sugar.
Okay,
But
so
you know
you
why
always
they
do
put
that
it in
teaspoon
grams?
thing.
Do you
Why?
know- because we're Americans and we don't get that.
Yeah,
so
well, 'cause it means nothing
39
to
grams
me.
must be nothing, right? So how much is 39 grams?
I've got to break it to you, man. That's not all that you Americans don't get. Sorry, guys.
The main thing what Americans don't get is healthy food.
Oh, I think it depends where you stay, though. You get some of those towns that are very health conscious, and then you get those that are really wow.
Yeah, if you have like a market from the farmers firsthand, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think maybe the best equivalent is for here. Hold out your hands right here. I'm going to put packets of sugar in your hands. You tell me when to stop. Alrighty? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. More than that?
I'm thinking more.
Okay. 5, 6, 7. You tell me when to stop. 8,
Oh,
9.
that's enough.
Okay, keep going. 10. Keep going. 11, 12. You want to stop?
Yeah.
No. 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, remember, they put a lot of
Right.
sugar in those things.
I mean,
a lot.
one of them sugar slices ain't even a gram, surely. Maybe a gram at the most.
3 gram, but the thing is, remember, when they put that sugar in, it still gets diluted as well. So it makes it even denser.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's why when you make sugar water, it's denser than regular fresh water. Because even when it gets diluted, it becomes even more, I think the word saline. Or is that just with salt? That's quite interesting. It's the sugar. Let me see if I can find some more. No, I don't know the answer. Okay, there's another one. Let's see. Sink or float? Huh.
Toss some sticks into a pond, or maybe you like to bring a bunch of toys into the tub. Either way, you've probably found that not all objects act the same when they're in the water.
No, really? Okay, let's see.
First, we'll need a pretty big container of water. We'll fill it
Container! Woohoo!
Ooh, I wonder what that's used for.
about 3/4 full and set it up where it's okay if some splashes out. Now we need some stuff to put in the water.
Yeah.
All kinds of different stuff.
We're gonna look for a couple things around the fort that are okay to get wet.
Okay. Okay, a stick, a coin, a spoon, and it looks like a plastic spoon. Okay.
Some are a little bit bigger. I think we have a pretty good group of objects because they're all pretty different. Now, before we start putting things in the water, let's guess whether each one will sink or float. And let's keep track of our guesses. But how will we...
Okay. Stick, guys. Sink or float?
Flopped. It's going to flop.
Less dense.
Yeah.
Less dense, not float. Less dense.
I agree. Less dense, so
Okay.
float.
Float.
Less dense, so float.
Less dense.
Okay. Spoon. I say
More dense.
More dense.
more dense. Yeah. Okay, so sink. Plastic spoon.
Less.
Less
Less
dense.
dense. Coin.
More.
More dense.
Yeah.
Depends on what the
Okay.
coin's made of.
Yeah, depending. Yeah.
It might be a chocolate coin, and it might not. It might not be.
Okay, let's go first to.
But the plastic spoon might be one of them as well. If you put it in a certain way, it'll float. If you put it in with it already a part of it already under the surface, it might sink. I don't know.
You can
But
probably.
I would say less dense anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. Put me and Bill down for the stick floats.
Okay, here we go.
Stick floats. There we go.
And it floats. Good
Okay,
job.
less dense. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, spoon.
Oh,
Me neither.
quack.
Quack, quack, quack. We
Titanic.
think it'll sink.
Okay, let's see.
And
It
there we
sinks.
go. Denser. So far we got 2 for 2. Is this what we have to resort to?
Yeah, but it's getting, it makes people realize though it is useful. Imagine that you went through this again, like what we did in school. As an adult now, you'd be like, people in classroom would be going gravity, and you'd be like, "Is it balls gravity?" Look, you'd have a field day teach. You'd be kicked out on detention straight away.
I would go back to school for that.
Okay, let's see.
The metal spoon did.
Okay, let's see.
Hey, we got
It
another one
floats.
right.
Oh,
Bummer.
So less dense, okay. And the last one, a coin. Let's see.
kind of small, and I don't usually see things that small floating. I'll have to agree with my sister this time. It's gonna sink.
It sinks.
I just want to point out, did it go straight down or did it go? Just like I tried to explain to Drew last night, it goes
The little
because of surface tension.
whip wobble.
The friction. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
That's
I had a
kindergarten
guy-
done for today.
I had a guy in chat on one of Brian's videos, and he said to me, we were talking about what is the cause of the acceleration in a variety of examples, like the egg for one. And his words were, if it looks like a dog, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it waddles like a duck, it's probably a duck. He said, same for gravity. And my response was, yeah, but what you guys do is if it looks like it's manipulating the variable that we manipulate, and it smells like it's manipulating that variable, and it tastes like it's manipulating that variable, you'll calculate it into something else instead. Because that is what they do. They calculate it into something else. They ignore what the cause is, and they calculate the effect some other way, making assumptions and delusions. But that is what they do.
Yeah. That is so true. That's because they don't have anything. What they do is they beg the question, and then they use correlation and claim, well, we've got correlation, so therefore science, therefore it's the cause. I don't know. It's almost as if they don't understand the difference between causation and correlation.
Yeah. They conflate a lot of things, though, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
With the fallacious reasoning. So, say fallacious, it's probably just heretical, outright heretical. Because the
Oh, here's an
fallacious
interesting
then
one.
implies misunderstanding.
Kids want to know what makes something float or sink. Should be interesting. Let's see.
Kids want to know.
Thank you.
Have you ever taken a bath or played in a swimming pool, lake, or ocean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've noticed that there are some things that make really good bath or pool toys, and other things.
Other things that don't, yeah, exactly. Who's trying to come in again? Roger. Okay.
There's something wrong with my mic. It just keeps going out. I don't know what it is.
Things Well, not so much.
Yeah.
The
Are
term
we going to watch
buoyancy
some Sesame Street next?
You know what? Globers need to watch some Sesame Street because like they seem to have ignored all the things that we learnt in school.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
maybe we should watch some Play School. We'll look through the round window.
Today we play sink or float. Yay!
So for blurfs, it'd be gravity or non-gravity. Yay!
refers to how well something floats or sinks. If something is able to float, we would say that it's buoyant.
Yes.
So, what makes something float or sink?
I wouldn't say that.
Generally,
You see, the thing that bothers me with the word buoyant, this is why I don't really like using it, is because globers have been taught to automatically associate gravity into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's calculated into the buoyancy equation. That's why I've said to Brian, don't call it buoyant. Just say more dense.
Displacement. That's why I call it displacement.
Don't use that word. In the same way that they've hijacked the word weight, that means like, because weight's got an acceleration due to gravity in it, and obviously buoyancy's got an acceleration due to gravity in it. Those two words are probably the most important words that we need to talk about. But we can't use those words because they've been hijacked with a nonsense force that's not a force. So we need alternative, and that's why I use the alternatives. But for some reason, Brian keeps calling it buoyancy, and I don't agree with him, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Brian's logic.
He's not going into
Brian's
full
not
mode like Bob did, though.
But I think after this, we go to Brian's video because
Yeah.
he did actually do quite a cool video.
It's maybe just habit with Brian, though, aren't he? Just you're so used to saying it. You know, I don't know.
No, I've told him before. I've said the minute you say the word buoyant force or buoyancy, they'll immediately go, "Oh, well, we calculate that with gravity and their little g." And he's got no way out of that. And I've tried telling him, but he just ignores me on it. I don't know why.
Okay.
He just did a stream on that, didn't he? It was funny.
Yeah.
Did he
Catchy,
really?
yeah, I was just going to say CatGPT. We don't need to incorporate RDD with buoyancy equation because the buoyancy equation is RDD.
No, the buoyancy equation assumes gravity is a force.
No, not the original. Archimedes' principle never had gravity into it.
Yes, Archimedes' principle never had gravity in it. That's right. But they consider them both one and the same thing, though. They equivocate between the two.
Yeah, but that's my whole point. They came and they stuck G into it and just ignored the 1,900 years before that the equation never had G in.
The minute you hear the word weight, that's a hijacked term that they use, that they've hijacked. So Archimedes' principle talks about the weight. Like it's the volume of water that is equal to the weight of the volume, or however they word it, and then they use the word weight. Minute they say that, they're including gravity in the formula, in the maths, right? Even though gravity is not there in real world, they calculate it. So in their head, minute we use that term, boom, that's a big tick for them. And unless you're aware it's there, like Brian keeps using it, he's just going to trip himself up over and over and over again.
Yeah, he's going to have to change that, unfortunately, because globers love to use semantics. So the thing is, they're very semantical when it comes to words. And as soon as you say buoyancy, they say, oh, but that's gravity. So you say, wait, oh, that's gravity. In the meantime, it's got nothing to do with it. But because they believe it's got to do with it, therefore, because you say that word, it means gravity.
Can I just say to who was it was asking? Somebody said something about bluff. Why is it called bluff? Somebody said that, I can't remember. Bluff. Whoever asked that, who was it?
They all know what blurf means.
Some people use glurf, but I think blurf sounds better.
Bluff does sound better.
Yeah. I use both of them. They both sound funny to me.
They're both ridiculous.
Oh, it was the last one, guys. It was the last one.
Both describing the same ridiculous persons.
Yeah. It's the last trumpet said it. Yeah, it just means ball alpha.
Let's just redefine it for the guy that asked. The word blurf is it's a shortened phrase for science denying, dishonest, misleading wanker. That's basically what it is.
And it's kind of a retort. It's in retort to flaff as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? We were flaffs, so they're blaffs, sort of thing.
What came first, though, the blurf or the flurf?
No, what did come first, the blurf or the blurf? I was wondering that myself. As I said, I
Dr.
was
Seuss
wondering it.
would be proud of you. Yeah, Dr. Seuss would be proud of you, boys. I'm telling you.
Do you know what? We could come up with a series of jokes like, why did the flurf cross the road, or why did the blurf cross the road? I'm sure we could get loads of them in there.
Oh, indeed.
Okay.
We can determine if something can float by feeling its weight. Usually, if something is light, it floats or is positively buoyant. If it's heavy, then it sinks.
You see, this is exactly what I'm saying. You see, they're originally placing now in their kid's mind. Okay, something's light, therefore it has less gravitational pull.
Yeah, yeah.
Something's heavy has more gravitational pull. But they're not really playing the actual scenario out. They're not saying, okay, let's look at some factors. What can cause a thing to float? Yes, if a thing's heavier, it's more likely to sink. If it's less dense, it's more likely to float.
Yeah.
But let's look at surface area. Let's look at the displacement ratio between the two. Let's look at the medium.
Yeah, because just explain it like that, even to a kid, just saying like a rock's heavy, so it's got to sink. But a kid's got to think, well, a big ship's heavier than a rock, so why doesn't that sink? You know?
Yeah. What they don't show in this though is what they'll not tell the kids is they'll play this animation and they'll say, "Look, a feather." But what they're not saying is the feather's displacing the medium of air, but when it hits the water, it stops that down direction of acceleration and now is being held by an equal and opposite force holding it in its position.
Right.
But if you were to pull that feather to the bottom of the tank and then let go of it and it goes back up again, well, they're not going to talk about that, are they? They're not going to talk about the medium. They're going to keep talking about weight because weight is mass times little g. And the mass of the feather or the bowling ball or whatever doesn't change. The acceleration due to gravity doesn't change. It's still there. Yet in different mediums, the behavior of different masses varies based on that medium, which is not accounted for in the maths. It's only the two factors and they don't change. Mass is always a constant. The acceleration due to gravity is parts in a trillion. That's the only differential. That's practically a constant as well. Doesn't change.
Or is negatively buoyant. This is an easy enough explanation for us to accept, right? But the idea becomes shaky when we consider why something really, really heavy, like a cruise ship, is able to float.
There we go. And this is what I was trying to explain to Drew last night.
By varying the volume, you can create a mass that's as heavy as a boat. You can make that float by changing the volume. If you were to vary the volume and make that into a cube, a solid cube with no gaps in it or anything like that, it's just a solid cube. We all know what that's going to do in water. It's a perfect relative density proof, this.
Well, let's do it this way. I actually wanted to do this last night with him. Okay, this is just a tack, okay? And there's the pin where you can place it in, okay? Let's turn the tack upside down. Now, the tack upside down, let's say this one. When you push that down, is it going to perforate easier into the surface? That's well, it's difficult. I'm doing it. Let's say yes. Okay. Upside down, you got more surface area. So you got all this contending back to it. So remember, equal and opposite reaction, guys. Newton's first law. So it's much more difficult to push this area into the perforated than it is for just this amount of area.
Yeah.
That's what displacement is.
Ships work on the same principle, right? That's how they get heavy ships to float.
That's how
doing it forever.
Right. And that's why when Anthony talks about the Plimsoll lines, that's what happens. It lifts it up when it's more when the waters are, and it lifts it up. It has less surface area, so it's able to float higher. And then when it gets to a place where the water's less dense, it sinks deeper and it displaces more water, so it can still keep floating. Yeah. Why do you think a ship's hull is shaped in this
way
form?
it is? Yeah. I mean, if you dangle off yourself off the side of just a little boat, so to speak, and just let the legs dangle, they'll automatically get sucked under, kind of go towards the center of the boat because of the shape of it. You know, I wouldn't like to be under a big ship like that. You know.
I mean, you can even think of it with a ship when they got their bulge pumps. You know, those bulge pumps that takes the water that comes in and it puts it back in the ocean.
Yeah.
When the water's coming into the boat, that boat is sinking slowly but surely. Remember, it's still displacing the same amount of water on the outside, but because the ratio is changing because the boat's getting heavier thanks to the water inside, they need the bulge pump to release the water so the weight can become less, so it's able to change that ratio so there's less force of the boat attributing onto the water.
The sinking of the Titanic is the best example of relative density because obviously it sliced down the side of the boat and it allowed water to come in.
Yeah.
Relative to the size of that boat, it was a slow rate that water was coming in because it took hours for it to sink.
Oh, a long time.
Yeah, but it was still a lot of water coming in from a human's perspective. But from the size of the boat, it was a small amount, and that's why it took hours. But that boat's taking on more and more water. It's not getting rid of it, so it's increasing its density relative to its medium. And what do you know? It starts to sink. It's a perfect example of relative density. All submarines are relative density. All hot air balloons are examples of relative density.
Yeah.
Fight the Flat Earth proved relative density, whether he admits it or not.
We should name a boat USS TFE and put a couple of holes in it.
It's Felicia. Come, guys. We literally need 21 likes to hit 100. I'm sure we can get there. Please, please, please hit the likes if you haven't already. It really does help. Oh, and the 226 votes so far. TFE should be renamed Duffy's Failure. 65% say yes. No, 35%. Ooh.
Yeah, Duffy's
35%.
Or the fraudulent experiment works as well. Instead of the final experiment, the fraudulent one.
Mm-hmm.
To understand this, we need to understand the concept of density. Density is the amount of stuff or mass something has inside of it, compared to its volume or size. For example, if we look at this bucket full of sand, we would say that it's more dense than this identical empty bucket, because the bucket full of sand has more stuff.
It's more crammed into the same amount of volume. And I want to point out again, guys, volume. Everything has volume. Globers.
And everything that exists as
Everything's
mass.
contained.
Yeah. If it exists, it's got mass.
Mm-hmm. Man.
More mass. Another example. So even though the bowling ball is smaller, it's more dense than the basketball.
Yes.
So what does this have to do with buoyancy?
Yeah, Archimedes' principle.
The next concept we need to tackle is called Archimedes' principle. Archimedes was a mathematician and philosopher who lived in ancient Greece.
Yes.
He had been stumped on a problem he was trying to figure out for the king, so he decided to take a bath.
Decided to take a bath. Okay.
Oh, nice. Fair play.
That's
Was it on a Saturday night?
Yeah. Well, I'm very stumped right now, so I'm gonna go take a bath. Okay. Some of these stories sound very far-fetched, though.
Yeah, but to be fair, a lot of people go to the toilet and have a dump so they can have thinking time, right? They're playing the phone, they think about stuff.
Well, don't you think he would have realized Archimedes' principle rather being on a toilet?
Yeah, but
why is my log floating?
Who's to say that Archimedes even existed, right? It sounds like he's another one of these biblical characters that they insist don't exist. It sounds to me like he's a heliocentric character that might not actually exist.
Yeah, it's weird. But remember, we still have to understand that in that time, even if he didn't exist or whatever, there was still no gravity. There was no such thing as a belief of gravity. So they worked all this out without the belief that you're being pulled to the ground.
When he was sitting in the bath, he noticed that the water level rose when he went into the bath. Let's pretend that this block is Archimedes. See how the water level goes up when the block goes into the water?
Mm-hmm.
This means that in order to make space for his body in the bath, the water had to get pushed around in the bath, making the water level rise.
There we go. That's how we say you can't have the same space as anybody else. Where I'm sitting in my chair, I can't share the same space with another person.
Let me throw a spanner into the works a little bit here. This principle is what Einstein adopted when he was describing the curvature of space-time. Because when you have a mass in a ball, in a box, in a bath full of water like that, the water is being pushed around it. So where the water was before now is not there anymore because the box is there. Well, the planet, he's envisaging space to be like a fluid, and he's envisaging space, the curvature of space-time, to be caused by the box now taking the volume that was once taken by water. Einstein's applying that same principle to the sky.
But that's why I say relative density circulum is more closely knit to general relativity than people's belief of Newtonian gravity.
Yeah, because it removes the absolutism of gravity to the center of the Earth and replaces it with relative to its medium that it's in. And obviously, relative to its medium is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's very simple. All it is even based on general relativity, it has an unbalanced force. And because the medium around it gives way, that's what causes the acceleration. It's the displacement ratios. General relativity actually explains relative density disequilibrium. Just without the whole gravity nonsense belief.
Yeah, the way it explains it, though, is done in a way that it makes it sound like Narnia, and I don't even like it. Even though I kind of understand it in the sense that it is describing relative density, the way he does it, it just makes it sound ridiculous.
Yep, exactly. I mean, he even needed space to be flat for it to happen, for it to work. So he's kind of made space in like a bathtub.
Can we make a list of all these characters and name them all off and number them? Because I want to know, like Archimedes, Aristotle, or Aristophanes.
And then what we should do is we should give the biblical explanation, like the biblical explanation of who they are. So like the three wise men, they traveled to see Mary, Joseph, and Jesus in the Bethlehem manger, right? And they all brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Well, we should ascribe the likes of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the three wise men, and let's say that they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh to baby Jesus to draw the comparison that these are. If they say that the biblical characters are fictional characters, we apply that fictional explanation for what they do in the Bible to their fictional characters so that they understand the equivalence. Because they don't understand the equivalence. They actually think that I think that one of their characters, it might have been Aristotle, built an ark. They think that I think that, even though I'm trying to be sarcastic. They think that I think that Eratosthenes. They think that I think that Eratosthenes built an ark, and I'm like, you're just being ridiculous. I don't actually think that. I'm trying to take the piss out of you guys. Because I realize that you guys think that these are real people, and I'm not sure that they even were.
Yeah. It's like that question, isn't it? It's how long did it take Moses? How long did it take Moses to build the ark?
Yeah.
Moses.
How long did it take Aristotle to build the ark?
Yeah, no, but I've seen people falling for the Moses one.
Yeah, of course. If you transfer Moses to Socrates, or maybe not Socrates, but Eratosthenes is the best one because you can apply him to anything. Part in the Red Sea, coming down the mountain with the what were they called, the 10 Commandments. Any of the characters in the swallowed by a whale. Wasn't Aristotle the one that was swallowed?
He came down with the 10 tentacles.
Testicles.
You almost said something else.
But anyway, the point is we should relate them to the Bible at all times to demonstrate the point that they're probably fictional characters, applying their own rule that the Bible characters are all fictional characters to demonstrate the point that they're just conceptualizing everything.
True.
But then we're supposed to use like Harry Potter or maybe...
No, it's much better with the Bible because they think that the
Bible has real
is
characters. Harry Potter doesn't. You see, that's the difference.
I know, but they think that the Holy Bible is a man-made storybook. That's what they think it is. They fail to realize that.
That's the thing. A lot of the globe is also Christians, though, so it doesn't really work for them. If you use things like
you can't be a Glober and be a Christian. That's like being a man and a woman.
You can, although it contradicts, but yeah, you can still be a Glober and a Christian.
No, I don't agree with that. If you think that you live in a heliocentric spinny water ball in a vacuum, you cannot be a Christian. It doesn't say that in the Bible, does it? In the beginning, that God created the heavens and the earth, right? Where in no sense, nowhere does it say anything about planets or out like that.
I 100% agree with you that the Bible definitely is very clear it's a flat Earth, but the Bible's not about the shape of the Earth. It's you're
it's not. No.
You're Christian based on accepting Jesus as your Lord and Savior. So that's why I say you can still be a Christian and a globe believer. Heck, you can be a Christian and a donkey Earth believer. The only issue is when you stand before God, you got to explain to him why you said he lied to you.
That's true. But Bible supports our claims in the matter of flat Earth. I can provide multiple verses.
See, I do own a Bible, but I don't consider myself to be religious. I own it because I was gifted it when I was a kid, when I was in Sunday school as a kid. But I kept it because you never know. You might need it someday, right? But ultimately, I have one. That don't make me Christian, but I do realize that if you claim to be Christian, you've got to accept the creation story in Genesis. You can't reject that. You can't pick and choose what you accept and don't accept. You've got to accept it.
Exactly.
And if that is the case, then it doesn't mention anything about spinning water ball, gas vacuums, and all that nonsense.
Exactly.
Yep.
Why would you accept that? They're both opposing stories, in my opinion.
And even the Bible itself says that you cannot add or distract or remove anything from the Bible. So
there's only one
looking at the Bible and is just avoiding Trinity or avoiding flat Earth. It's like people shouldn't do that. They shouldn't, because Bible prohibits that. So that's on them, not on us.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one cosmology that actually backs the heliocentric model up, right? That's the Greek and the Romans, right? Sorry.
Well, you can't add or take from the Bible, but there's consequences to it, you know?
True.
Because God warned about it at the end, you know what I mean? It's warned against if you add or take away, then the plagues that was in this Bible that's mentioned in this books will be added to you, you know? So it can be changed. It's just, there's consequences to it, big consequences.
Okay, let's try and see what they go in with this.
The story goes that he was so excited by this discovery that he jumped out of the bath and ran naked down the street to his laboratory, shouting,
"Why are you talking about naked men and children, man? What's going on?"
Butt tongue in it. Yeah.
That's the new thing now, you know. We got to get the kids acclimated to accept their new fate.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Ship problem. Even though a cruise ship is very heavy, it's also very, very large. Most of the ship is also hollow, so it's not as dense as you might think. Because of this, just like the basketball, the ship is actually lighter than the water it's displaced.
That's wrong. That is wrong. Okay, yeah, if you say it in the weight aspect, it's lighter, but I wouldn't say it's lighter. It's still heavier. Definitely not lighter than the water's displaced. It's just.
No, I think it's probably right. It is displacing more.
No, the way they're wording it sounds wrong, because the ship, if you had to wear, let's say you take that water that's displaced, okay, stick in the container and weigh it. It's still going to be heavy, but the remember the density of water is just it's per cube, so it stays the same. The whole ocean is still the same density.
What they
the
really
ship,
do,
on the other hand, is a single object, and its weight stays the same, unless you put more stuff in. That's gonna, but the weight of the boat itself as an object stays the same. The density is an average density of everything, because you have different. How can I say it? You got metal, and you got fiberglass, you got steel, you got glass.
The orange.
It's like orange.
Yeah. When you feel, but what they're doing here is they're obfuscating the truth, because really the way to describe this is more dense, less dense, right? But if they talk about weight and it displaces the same amount of weight, or a greater amount of weight than the amount in water, then that's where they can shoe on gravity into it. So this is to confuse.
Yeah,
No,
it just sounded weird the way she said it. But Andrew, yes, I agree. It displaces because it's lighter, because the ratio is the same. But I wouldn't say it's exactly lighter, because you still got parts of the ship in the water. You understand? So, yeah, it's weird. Weirdly, my contention is weirdly worded the way she's portraying.
Yeah, it is weirdly worded, but they do it intentionally because they want to talk. If they can get the word weight in there and replace density for weight, which is how they're doing it, then they confuse kids. That's how they do it.
Yeah. So just using ratio would be better to say the ratio of the density of the mass on the water is what makes it float. Correct?
Yeah.
Just a simple. Yeah.
It's that exact reason why they can make boats almost infinitely as big as they can. I mean, I know there's limitations on how much steel or whatever you can build a boat out of because there's not an infinite amount of steel. But ultimately, in theory, you could make a boat as big as, continue to make it bigger and bigger and bigger, so long as the density of the boat was less than the density of the water.
Well, let's for instance take a look at. Remember what's that big blimp that that burnt up because they were using hydrogen?
The Zeppelin.
Hindenburg. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Zeppelin, whatever. But because they use hydrogen because it's less dense, but it was very flammable.
Inside job to get rid of old technology, so people wouldn't use anymore.
Because you know what's interesting about blimps like that? The bigger you go, the more difficult it becomes. So even though the air inside is less dense, you're still adding more weight because you're making it bigger, and you're putting more stuff into the balloon to make it heavier.
Yeah, but the volume's increasing. You have to increase the volume. That's why hot air
volume
balloons
also increases. Yeah, but there's more stress on that volume.
Yeah, that's why there's limitations. And ultimately, the bottom line is like, if they were to talk about it in this way that we're talking about it, there's no room to put gravity in. But they'll never do it because they need Archimedes' principle to basically flip between the weight of the water and then weight of the water, gravity, and that's how they do it. It's just deception. It's like the crayons thing that we were just doing.
You want to hear something funny? NASA ramped up their blimp program like 2 years ago. They're really putting a lot of effort. Yeah, strange, huh?
It's almost as if they've got to do a lot of Starlink things to be able to expand the Starlink network, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Santa Claus. Who's Santa Claus? What's the difference between weight and mass and weight? Santa Claus is asking.
It depends. If you're answering that as a ball earther, mass and weight, the difference between them is the acceleration due to gravity. But if you're asking that as a flat earther, they're the same thing.
I think
because there is no such thing as an acceleration due to gravity.
Isn't it just resistance to inertia there?
Yeah, I think he's probably asking it as a troll.
Yeah, he's probably trolling. That's why I don't like using the term buoyant or buoyancy. Because the minute you do that, they go, ha ha! And it's like, oh, Brian, you just shot yourself in the foot again.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it is with Brian, he's kind of got the Bob Nodell syndrome, which is like, he's got it in his head in a certain way, and no one's going to change his mind. So he has to keep doing it, even though he shoots himself in the foot every single time. And I'm like, come on, Brian. But there's only so much you can do.
Okay, let's go to Brian's buoyancy video.
Oh, right.
A change in the buoyancy ratio.
See, changing a ratio of any kind is never going to cause an acceleration because it's a mathematical concept that you're varying a ratio. That's why specific gravity is not relative density, because the output of specific gravity is a ratio. Well, show me anywhere where a ratio has ever caused anything to happen, and it doesn't. A ratio is a ratio. It's a mathematical expression of you doing something in the real world. Well, don't talk about a mathematical expression. Talk about the real world, because you're doing the real world. Don't talk about ratios within mathematics because they're in mathematics. You're not doing mathematics. You're doing experiment. You're doing real world. You're not varying a ratio.
Yeah. So I said, thank you back Eden for your $2. Says NASA rocket found the electric field in August 24th. Really? That's interesting. Well, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate you. Where did they find this field anyway?
It was just floating around in space.
Hey guys,
this is going to be a short video.
I'm going to give you guys Brian's link. If you want to go and support him, do subscribe to Brian. Shout out to Brian. Awesome guy. But yeah, we're definitely going to point out some things that, like Anthony says with the wording, which we don't agree with how he places it, but his argument is correct there. It's just pedantic. Again, we have to be pedantic on the wordings used because what Globe is saying.
Can I just point out to the audience that I've not seen this video? This is the first time I've seen it. So if you're wondering, have I seen this before? And that's why I'm saying that. The answer is no. But I agree with Flatzoid. There's going to be terminology differences here. And his overall message is going to be right. But it's the use of terminology that's going to be probably fatal, in my opinion. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I just want to address one thing. It's just a stupid claim that's been made by the ballers a lot. A stupid rebuttal, I should say, from the ballers concerning relative density, which is just buoyancy, right?
Stop!
I'm going to play it now in a second. I won't play the audio.
See, we say it's just buoyancy. As soon as he said buoyancy,
relative density is definitely not just buoyancy, Brian, because buoyancy calculates gravity into it, and therefore gravity exists. It's definitely not. I wish he wouldn't say that.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because you're saying it's just buoyancy, they say, okay, well then it's gravity.
Yeah. They might as well just become synonymous.
I think he just likes the word buoyancy, dude. That's really what it is. He likes it.
To be honest, I think it's a little bit of. I mean, I like Brian. I don't agree with him on everything, but on this thing, I've got a lot of disdain for him because he knows that word means gravity exists in the maths, but he still uses it. And I just wish he wouldn't, because like, Brian, come on, you know that they love that word, gravity. It's in the maths for buoyancy.
Because I can't get it to come through other than through the speakers, and that's no good. You want to be able to hear it properly, and I don't want to have you trying to listen in. So just have the closed captions on. You'll hear, this is, I was listening to Flatzoids in the past couple of days, and this is Dave Farina versus Laura Jamar in a debate. And Dave Farina in a moment is going to address, he's going to give his address of the buoyancy argument, right? That he's trying to promote a force of gravity. Now, before I go on and play this, I must point out two things. Number one, I'm sick, so you might hear a cough or a sneeze, right? And number two is a force of gravity, right, in this year, 2025, was thrown out the window by Albert Einstein, right, 110 years ago. It was, right, a force of gravity started with Johannes Kepler, right? He was the originator of the idea. It was postulated on by Isaac Newton. Then Isaac Newton basically distanced himself from it, later on in time. And after him, other people came after Isaac Newton, trying to promote it. People like Reverend Jean-Michel and Henry Cavendish. And then you have what's his name, Boys, with his 9.81 meters per second calculation after that. Either way, right, what they had to do eventually was just hijack buoyancy, because buoyancy was the thing that debunked it. All the way, what we call weight is the downward vector of buoyancy. Buoyancy is two vectors.
No, weight's not really that. Weight's a hijack term for basically how we feel how heavy something is in the medium of air. We always miss that bit off. But if you get gold bar in the medium of air, it's mega heavy. You don't need a lot of gold for it to be really, really heavy. But if you put that gold bullion bar in mercury, I'm not saying it does, I haven't checked it, but it'll probably float. Might not float, I'd have to check. But the point is when we're holding something in the medium of air, it generally feels pretty heavy, and that's all we're talking about with weight. It's how heavy something is in the medium of air.
Yeah.
But that's why I say it's about the displacement ratio.
Yeah,
and
let's not use the word ratio because that's maths.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reason you have to put ratio in is because there's more than one aspect to what changes how it's displaced. I mean, even the shape changes how it's displaced, the surface area, how dense it is, what medium it is. So you see, there's a lot of contributors to change its displacement ratio, you could say. And that's why we have to say it's a ratio, because it does change based on many factors. It's not just one simple, it's weight, therefore sink. You understand?
I just don't like the ratio. Because all we then say is it's specific gravity, and it's like it really isn't, because specific gravity doesn't output in a direction or a magnitude.
it outputs in a ratio, and that ratio doesn't give you direction and magnitude, whereas relative density does. So like that's why I don't like the word ratio. Anyway, let's move on.
Hey, can I ask a question right quick? Like, can you take pressure and actually raise things that are heavy, like airbags? That would change the density too, right? Or
have you seen those? Have you
it's
seen,
a force applied. So yeah.
Have you seen the indoor skydiving places where you can go and there's a big fan in the floor and you like
and they're floating?
Yeah, you're applying pressure on the side to change to cause things to float.
I've seen them take airbags and raise like cars and even ships and move them on land. You can do that just with the surface tension of the bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, guys, since Charles says I'm a Brian's #1 in cool accents, I'm close second. I think I have to talk more South African now because I have to compete now with the accent.
Yeah.
So if you want me to have a Boer accent, I will have a Boer accent for you, and I will speak the deliciously Kaskool language, and hopefully you understand me better. Okay?
Go watch Chappie or something like that. No, it's not is it Chappie? That's South African?
Chappie, yeah.
Yeah, Chappie. Go watch Chappie.
But you won't beat my accent anyway.
So, class, let's do a whole show in Afrikaans. That would be fun. Yeah.
Ons kan 'n hele aand doen net in Afrikaans as julle wil, maar ek dink julle gaan verstaan wat aangaan as ek met julle praat in Afrikaans en dan gaan julle subtitles moet gebruik om agter te kom wat ek sê, maar dit gaan nie werk nie.
Nice. My granny had one of them, but the wheels fell off of it.
By the way, you know that the Oscar Pistorius trial, and they had that prosecutor. I can't remember his name, but that prosecutor, he sounded amazing when he was talking. I don't know whether he was like a posh South African guy, but when I was listening to the way that he was speaking, it was fantastic.
Yeah, you get different types of South African accents.
Yeah, I guess
it also depends on area, and if you're more Afrikaans or more English. Mine is at least very bilingual. You know what I mean? Because I was brought up English and Afrikaans together. So because my dad was English and my mom's Afrikaans, so I was brought up both. So with me, it's like a mixture, and because I was more suburban kind of guy, so that's why I got this type of accent. But you get like the guys that's brought up in like on a farm or something, they're more just Afrikaans, and then they talk, like this kind of English, because this is how they were brought up, because most of the time I only talk Afrikaans. And then you get like the Benoni kind of guys, like, I like go with my car, and we pimp it up with a Boksburg Vloeimak, and we drive like that, So you get the different ones, and then you get the almost posh South African, where it's almost like a bit of UK English with a bit of South African, and we
you get. I've heard a lot of South Africans saying rather than They say
yeah. But there's one word that everybody in South Africa knows, and that's "What's up?"
What's that?
But I've actually had some South Africans asking me we should do an Afrikaans show sometime, so it'll be a very limited stream. Let's put it that way, because no one's going to know what's going on. Sorry?
Do subtitles.
Even subtitles, I've seen, especially YouTube, when it tries to translate Afrikaans, it's not really 100% accurate. I'm gonna say something like, for instance, ek het daai vak geleer daar in daai skool die ander dag, and it's gonna tell me I'm swearing instead I'm telling it's about a subject. You understand?
Yeah. By the way, back on topic a minute. What's the name of this black dude? I didn't catch the name.
Lord Jamal.
Lord Jamal, yeah.
What? Say it again slowly.
Lord Jamal.
Lord Jamal. Why is it that I've not come across this guy in terms of like YouTube?
He's a hip hop artist, rapper kind of guy.
Has anybody else come across this guy other than is it just me?
I learned him from YouTube, but when I heard the song, I I don't know he was the one that did the song.
I thought you were like Wu-Tang Clan or something like that.
Yeah, from the Wu-Tang Clan.
You've heard of Wu-Tang Clan, surely, Anthony?
Yeah, I've heard of Wu-Tang Clan, but
That's him.
anytime
There's one of them.
He's one of them.
I'm always curious when people come, like showbiz, come into this, because it's like, yeah, we've seen this before with like there's another basketball guy, I can't remember his name, but Michael Jordan. It weren't Michael Jordan, but it's somebody on that magnitude.
Well, you see, the thing is,
Shaq O'Neal,
with,
yeah, he said he was a flat earther for a bit. Shaq O'Neal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Shaq
you see,
O'Neal, that's who it was, yeah.
Don't think he was.
But I mean, with Lord Jamar, we agree that we don't think he's the best candidate to be debating flat Earth, but I think he knows enough to be able to embarrass not a Professor Dave like he did. So that tells you something. If the guy that we say, shouldn't really be the guy debating, but he's still able to make not a Professor Dave look like a complete tool, then that tells you something.
I'm gonna tell you, I like Rampage Jackson as a celebrity for Flat Earth. He's really meek.
I tell you something, there's Easter eggs all over the place at the minute with Donald Trump. Anytime you listen to Donald Trump, right, he does it dead subtle. He's intelligent, that guy. He's constantly putting flat Earth references into stuff. You listen for it. He'll always do it. And it's like, is he doing that on purpose or is it fluke? But he does it that often. I can't say it's a coincidence because he keeps doing it. I'm telling you, Donald Trump's a flat earther.
I
think so.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, he maybe knows it's flat.
He's doing it all the time. He said, like, when he was talking about that Chinook that crashed into that passenger plane, he was talking about the elevation that the helicopter were at, and his point was that the helicopter pilot was in the wrong height relative to where he should be. I think he should have been at 200 and he was at 250 or whatever it was. Don't quote me on that, but he basically said that plane should have been flat. That helicopter should have been flying, dead flat. That set and the way he worded it, I was like, "Oh my god, he's done it again! He keeps doing it, man."
A lot of them do it, man. A lot of the politicians, like even Hillary, says that glass ceiling,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
And do you know what?
And Toby's excuse for that is, "Oh, guys, it's just a saying. It doesn't mean you're literally talking about the dome."
Another one that was brilliant. Yeah. Have you seen Top Gun Maverick?
I haven't. I still want to watch it. I don't know why I haven't got to watch it yet.
Right, there's a scene in it where Tom Cruise is out in the plane and the guy that's leading the project says, "Get him down here, get him back into land." And the radio guy says to him, he says, "Maverick," he said, "come in, you need to bring it back. He's not having it, so turn it around and bring the plane home." And Maverick realizes that he's being told that he can't do something. And you know what he's like, he's a rebel, isn't he? So he starts pretending that there's a breakdown in communications. So he starts talking like that. And then the radio guy says to the boss, "Sorry, boss, we've got communication problems." And he's basically covering for Maverick. He's trying to lie to the guy, telling him to come home so that Maverick can carry on and do it. And do you know what the lie was that he used? He said, "That's the curvature of the Earth stopping the communications." He was lying about the shape of the globe. Whilst, you got to watch it. It's glorious. Of all the things he could have said, you come up with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's even in the new Wolverine and Deadpool movie. Deadpool and Wolverine. He says that Deadpool calls somebody a round earther, as though like he was a flat earther. He calls "you're a round earther" sort of thing. Is an insult, but it's all over the place.
He also said it's one more time around the moon on the birthday. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should definitely make a plan to watch Maverick though, because I actually wanted to. I just don't have time.
It's all right.
There's another one coming out, isn't there?
Is that
if you watch the original first, because there's a lot of things that if you've not seen it recently, you'll miss. Like he uses the original leather jacket, he uses the original motorbike, and if you're not realizing that they're the originals, you'll really kind of deprive yourself of a lot of the nostalgia that is clearly evident in the video. It's really good, very clever.
Yeah.
I put it off. I thought I'm not going to watch that crap. And I liked it when I watched it. So
yeah, brilliant.
It's not bad. It's not bad considering like they were doing all these nostalgic movies.
I'm really against Tom Cruise. I don't like the guy.
No, of course.
Yeah, the Scientology thing puts me off a bit as well.
Some things I heard what he said to people during Boogie Virus, like
bang
out.
Yeah,
Yeah, he got
That's
that
the
from Zeke.
unfortunate thing.
Wow. Oh, well, that's another. We'll have to do that offline. But I'd love to know what
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said to people doing boogie virus.
Yeah. Well, guys, on tonight's episode, as we look at movies.
Down to earth.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to go back on foot, Brian?
Yeah, go
on.
Go for it.
Downward and upward. That's it, right? Weight is just the name we give to the downward vector, right? We know this. It's proven. You can prove this through scientific method. There's no if, buts, or maybes about it, right? Yet people like Dave Free, they want to keep pushing a completely out-of-date idea that never had any scientific backing, and there was even hand waved away eventually by Isaac Newton, and anything that anyone wanted to state after him was became completely irrelevant in 1915 when Albert Einstein's general relativity came out. That completely replaced all of the claimed equations that was connected to a claimed force of attraction between masses. Mass itself is only mole in chemistry. I literally could give a 10-minute rundown on the whole thing with history and definitions and different things, but I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to show, right, how to defeat, right, this stupid rebuttal from the borders. Okay, I'm going to play it, right. You'll see when it comes to, here we are, right. The problem with your densities, you think that things fall down because the air is less dense. The air is less dense above the objects too. So why don't things fall up, right?
So I say thank you for your super chat, Kanuel. Thank you. I appreciate you very much, man. You rock. He says, when it comes to TFE, what's up now? When it comes to debunking gravity using buoyancy and density, what down now? That's so true.
Why does Dave Farina say that? Why do things fall down when we know that things fall up as well? Like water evaporating, a puddle on the floor when it rains evaporates and the vapor rises. So that's falling up. Newton's apple that fell off the tree, if that tree were in the medium of water, that would have fallen up. Helium balloons and hot air balloons, they fall up. So it's not even true to say why down, because things do fall up. We just don't tend to see most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, I wouldn't say falling up, I'd say rising.
Falling up, because it makes a mockery of falling down. It's taking the piss out of them. I prefer that because obviously down is relative to the human, but they don't accept that argument. So it's the best way I've found to be able to take the piss out of them.
It's very, but I mean, we even explained this there. It's very simple. When I pick this cup up, okay, I had to expend energy to pick it up. Okay, can't see it. Let's take this. When I pick this mug up, I had to expend energy to pick it up. Why would you expect it to carry on going more up when it takes more energy to go up? It has to use that energy that you picked it up, and that's what goes down. It's simple as that. And it's
not the accelerated forces pulling it down.
It's like it's like expecting to put your car off and then drive.
Duh.
That's it. That's how dumb it is. That's why when these people do, oh, why is things not falling up? Things do actually, like you said, fall up, even though you say, like air bubbles. And we've seen dandelions take on the wind. We've seen steam, when it gets enough energy, but it still takes energy for it to go up.
Yeah. All gases do that when you heat them for the most part, don't they?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, things do go up. We do see things go up. But just like we see things go down, why don't things just carry on going up when it's less dense? Well, because I had to put energy. I had to literally burn energy to pick it up. I'm keeping with the first law of thermodynamics. So when I let it go, what does the first law of thermodynamics say? No matter can be created nor destroyed, only transferred or transformed. Now, this energy I've picked up is now going to be transferred and transformed into kinetic energy with its surrounding. And that's where what has to go down, because the air cannot support it. Simple.
Yeah, the other way to describe it is that when you're holding something, that thing that you're holding is more dense than the air that it's in, and that's why you've got to hold it to stop it from falling. So you're providing an equal and opposite force. So it's an example of a net force. There's the weight of its medium, the matter in its medium, against your equal and opposite force pushing up the other way. That is a good example of net forces. But what they then do is they say, but gravity's in there as well. So we've got an equal and opposite net force thing applied with your egg. And it's like, yeah, you can't prove the gravity though. And we know that it's not a force, and that's why you can't prove it. But they'll ignore that and they'll focus on how it's a net force anyway, and you're being countered by it.
Yeah, but the reason I've placed the way I do is because, like Dave Farina, his whole argument is, well, it's less dense upwards. Why is it still not going up? That's his argument. Why is it less dense upwards? Why is it not going up then? Because it's less dense instead of down. And that's just why I said, because you picked it up, because you had to literally put energy, you had to expend, you had to transfer and transform energy, you had to literally expend that energy to get it up. And then why
the other way to answer that is the reason why it's not going up, Dave, is because it is still more dense than the air that it's in. For it to go the other way, it would have to be less dense than the air it's in.
You can put this in another scenario. Try and climb a ladder, but take the steps away.
Yeah, hard job, man. Hard job.
So Flats, you gonna make a Net Force Zero shirt? I'll buy one, dude.
I have seen mimers that can do it. I've seen mimers climbing ladders and stuff.
I'll do that.
They're pretty good at it.
Net Force Zero. Okay, that's an idea.
Yeah, it is. I came up with that a while back, but I don't think you heard me.
It's just I get so busy. Hey guys, we hit 100 likes. Woohoo! Thank you very much. You guys all rock. I appreciate you. Please share the show. Yeah. We've already been going on for like 2 hours. Can you believe it? Okay.
Wow. Say hi to Rose right quick.
So that's Dave Farina, right? His rebuttal to the buoyancy argument is that why don't things fall up? If things fall down because they are below them are less dense, then why doesn't that same object go up? So why did the apple go down and not up? Right, he's trying to remove the medium out of the equation and trying to claim a force of gravity, right, made the apple go down, which is a load of rubbish. Change the medium, the apple goes up, right? That's what he's trying to do. Now, it's a pathetic rebuttal, right? And it's the only people that use this rebuttal are either completely dishonest people or people who are thick. Right? There's only
I know what it is. How about it's dishonest and thick at the same time?
Absolutely.
In other words, it's a Dave Farina.
Right.
Yeah, you can't be dishonest at the same time, though. That's a contradiction in terms. Because, like, if you're dishonest, that you know that you're deceiving someone with a false statement of fact. Whereas if you're ignorant and you're just stupid, you don't know that you're deceiving people with a false statement because you believe that statement's true. You're just too dumb to work out that it's wrong.
Actually, I disagree with that. I would say you know you're deceiving them, but you're too dumb to realize how you're deceiving them.
Whoa, yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense, actually. I'll give you that one.
I'll give you that, guys. How about they're so proud of what they think they know that they just go off and make people think they're smart.
Yeah, it's a good example of the emperor's new clothes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
only two people that promote a force of gravity. People who are dishonest or people who are stupid. I'm talking about in this arena. I'm not talking about your average everyday person who doesn't know any different at that. I'm talking about in this arena. If you promote a force of gravity, then you're either dishonest or you're thick. There is no third option, right? You're stupid or you're a liar. It's one or the other. So the debunk of this is for Dave. There's Dave there. The debunk of this is this, right? Right? Is it right? A helium balloon in a vacuum chamber. We press play on it. It's going to be a short video. You see the helium balloon there, right? And there's the vacuum pump. There's the pressure. Pressure is going down. As it's going down, the helium balloon starts to expand. Why is it expanding? Because the density of the medium that's surrounding, I'm just going to pause it. I won't pause it. The density of the medium that surrounds it, right, is lessening. Right, so the cubic inch density, because gas doesn't really have a density, you can only give it a calculation of a cubic inch density. The density of the air, the cubic inch density.
Yeah, that's something we have to also reiterate for Globers again. Weight is weight of air is a calculated weight. It's not a measured weight.
Yeah. You have to trap it
because
to be
air
yeah.
moves around in all directions constantly.
Mhm.
So you have to put it in a container and you have to calculate the weight, because you can never have the exact same amount of air, as you can say, molecules in that container. So it's a calculated weight of air.
I think the vacuum chamber with the the scale is actually the best example, isn't it? For air does not have weight. No.
Yeah, with Scuba Steve on or something. I agree, Norman. Vacuum chambers demolish gravity. Because that's exactly why when you see you stick a object on a scale in a vacuum chamber, when you take the air out, it becomes heavier. It's because it's not gravity dependent. It's the displacement. It's displacement dependent. The object to the ratio of the medium.
Is lessening in the surrounding of the balloon. So naturally, there's less resistance in on the balloon, right? So the helium inside expands.
Mm-hmm.
But as the air is being extracted from the chamber, right, and it's going into what we would mathematically call a vacuum. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum. They're only hypothetical. Third law of thermodynamics, there will always be, you'll never have a perfect vacuum. There will always be infrared radiation, blah, blah, blah.
Did you say the third law?
He did say third law, didn't he?
I think you did. It sounded like it.
I'm not going into all that now. The point is that just in case anyone who wants to be smart, right, because there's always some baller in the comments who wants to be smart and say, a perfect vacuum doesn't exist. Everyone knows that. Right, everyone in this arena surely knows that anyway. Point is, I know that, and I don't need to be told that stupid nonsense. There's a particular grades of vacuum, and when you get to one of those grades, there's low vacuum, medium vacuum, high vacuum, super high, and ultra high vacuum. I think there's like 5 grades. Point is that, right, what's actually happening is the medium that's in there is being extracted. So what's happening is because there's still air in there. Right, because there's still air in there at this point, but the more at this point, but there's so little of it, it is what we would call a vacuum.
I just want to say, Andrew, density is actually just a calculation. It's not a measurement, because it's a calculation of how much stuff is in a volume.
I think he's confused. Because he said something about throwing calculations out the window. I think he's not understanding what we're saying.
No.
You see, the problem is ball earthers claim calculations as measurements, and they're not the same.
Yeah, they're not the same. And we've tried to explain this many times.
It's funny, they always make a difference. Hey, there's a difference. Hey guys, NASA's launching a rocket right now. Check it out. They got a cartoon, and it's NASA's busy launching rockets.
Ooh. Anthony, you were saying him?
Yeah, I was just going to say that they always make a big issue out of the use of the word vacuum. You're right in the sense that they always say, "Oh, there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum." Like, no one ever says, "Oh, well, a perfect vacuum." No one ever says that. Total straw man when they do that. But then it starts getting silly because they start saying, "Well, tell me what is a vacuum then." And when you look up the meaning of a vacuum, there's lots of definitions for it, none of which are consistent with each other. They're all slightly different. But fundamentally, a lower pressure zone next to a higher pressure zone would be defined as a vacuum. And what do you mean by lower? Is it half a PSI? Is it a full PSI? It's really ambiguous. Try looking up what is the definition of a vacuum and then try and apply it to the real world. Because obviously when I say, well, the sky's a vacuum in your model, and it's clearly not a vacuum in real world, and they say no one says that. Well, actually, you do say that. You do say that the sky is a vacuum. You don't want to admit it, But you do say it because it's supposed to be your model. The sky is a vacuum in your model, but in real world it clearly can't be. So then they say it's not, it's a gradient and it tapers off. Yeah, well, if that was true, then it would do it instantly and immediately, as per all demonstrations of gases getting exhausted out of. I don't know, but you know my point.
Yeah, I agree.
It's after reaching that pressure, right? So as it keeps going down, right, he brings it down. You can see up here it keeps going down. Right, the balloon's after falling down, right? He stops it at that point. He stops the pump. The balloon's after going down, right? So now the density, right, of air in that chamber.
I also have to point out, as you can see, the balloon is increasing in volume, and there's still the same amount of gas inside there. So in other words, the balloon is getting less dense. But because the air in the bell jar is being removed, the medium is being removed, therefore there's nothing to support that balloon. So no matter what the density is of the object, it will always be denser than the nothing around it.
Yeah, because you're removing the molecules colliding with the balloon in all directions evenly. So there's less molecules that are balloon in all 360-degree directions.
Yeah, I mean, I like using the scenarios of pushing a car. Like, let's say you're pushing a car, okay? If you're alone, it's difficult. Now, let's take the vacuum and the car analogy together, and you remove the car. You're not pushing against anything anymore because the car's gone. So you can just walk. But if you had to walk against the car, it gives you resistance. And that's exactly what the medium is. The medium is resistance. So I don't understand how Globers don't understand when you take the resistance away, why would you expect it to go up?
A better word for resistance, the medium is pressing, is a better word. Because if you say pressure, they always say, but pressure is pressure over an area volume, right? Okay, so we're not going to use the word pressure anymore because that's another one of the words that you don't like us using. So we'll use pressing instead. That's a word that you guys you haven't stolen off us. So we'll say that the medium is pressing in all directions evenly, creating the medium, the thing that Brian calls buoyant force.
And
that's what's happening.
And this is why I always end my show with "May the pressure be with you." It's because of that.
May the pressing be with you.
You got to have pressure to press, don't you?
Yes. Exactly.
Well, it's in the word, isn't it? Press you up.
Yeah, exactly.
The same above as below. So why did the helium balloon go down? Because according to Dave Farina, right, the helium, according to Dave Farina and all these other idiots, the helium balloon should go up still. Why did the helium balloon go down? What caused it to go down? Why did it go down?
What it is.
And more to the point,
I know it is as well.
The helium balloon goes down because there's a magical hand of gravity coming out the ground and pulling the balloon down.
Of course. Absolutely. What else did you think it'd be?
My version, well, there were a helium magnet underneath it.
No, you guys got it wrong, okay? It's the crust firmament making an electric charge, okay?
Is that the
it's powering
magnetizes everything?
Powering the ether. The firmament crust is powering the electric charge, which powers the ether, which pulls it down. Okay, come on. While it's rising up.
Well, fiction can be fun, guys. I'm telling you.
If this guy kept that vacuum pump on, what would eventually happen, as you can see, the helium is expanding, it will bust out of the balloon, right? It'll bust the balloon open and fill the chamber equally in all directions, 360 degrees, right? So where's your gravity? There is no gravity. Doesn't exist, right? It's buoyancy, which is a density differential between the object or substance and the medium it resides within, right?
Again, this is what we're saying. We agree with what he's saying, just not the word he uses.
Correct. It should be relative density, not buoyancy.
That's why I use displacement. It's just the best.
I honestly don't know why he does it. It drives me. He knows it drives me nuts, and we've had arguments about it in the past. But he still does it. And I'm like, why would you give him that win? You just gift him and win, right? Come on.
Blacksmith's anvil will fall through air, it'll fall through water, but it'll go up in mercury. Why? Because of the density issue. So what's happening is the overall density of the helium balloon is now, because it's after going down because it is now greater than the surrounding medium, right? So why isn't the balloon still going up, Dave? All the ballers, why isn't the balloon still going up? This completely, so that stupid, dishonest, pathetic rebuttal is gone.
This is where you talk about your orange.
Yeah,
because
remember
he just said the overall density of the balloon is greater than the medium. Well, the overall density of your orange was greater than the medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
He
But
is
that's
right
the thing. When I removed the mass, the peel, it was supposed to be less dense. It was floating with the peel. Okay, removed all the air bubbles because the surface area was displacing everything around it, so it was able to float. But as soon as you remove the peel, which means I've taken mass away. Okay. No, sorry, it's sunk with the orange peel. Remember? Which one was it?
Their prediction would be that if you reduce, if you reduce the mass, then it would have to be lighter, wouldn't it? But it sank, so it did the opposite of what they say, and their explanation does not explain it in any way, shape, or form. But relative density does, because you might have removed mass, but the density of the orange. By the way, that orange was the ugliest orange I have ever seen as well. By the way, it's such an ugly orange. But
I just had to buy an orange to do it.
It was an ugly one. It was like all these stringy things hanging off it. Looked more like some out of a Halloween video.
It wasn't. It was going out of season. What can I say?
Well, we've all seen that meme that says "How to Fool Gravity," and he peel an orange and sink it in the water, right? If you look it up, you'll find it online somewhere.
I just wanna see if I can get the video. No, it can't be that far behind. Why is it whenever I look for something, it's difficult to find it?
It's because when you're under a time constraint, it's difficult. You have to do it instantly, don't you? Because you know that you're expecting it. But yeah, so when you did your orange test, if we reduce the mass, then it should, in theory, according to them, mass reduction, it should get lighter. But when you reduce the mass, it got heavier. So Brian's wording was correct. The overall density of the helium balloon was greater than the medium. That's why it went down. Well, the overall density of your orange, even after removing mass, the overall density of it was greater, and that also went down. Their explanation for this nonsense does not exist. They don't have it. But our explanation for this nonsense is obvious. It's obvious. It's intuitive. It doesn't need any explanation. It's just, you've just got to lie about reality and deny science to be able to get around it. That's what you've got to do.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm trying to look. Do you see now? Now type it in. It gives me everybody else's ones, but not mine.
Do you know what I'm getting, right? I said a few days ago that I was getting Simon Dan videos, and I've said not interested. Stop sending me notifications about this, and I've said that twice, and I'm still getting Simon Dan videos. Someone explain that nonsense to me. That voodoo.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, I see me getting unsubscribing from certain things and still getting pushed to videos.
Yeah. It's almost as if the force, it's like they're ramming it down your throat like a Jehovah's Witness and their version of the Bible.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. Yeah. No offense to Jehovah's Witnesses. Other religions are available.
We love you, Jehovah's. Just get with the program, man.
Yeah, stop knocking on my door trying to ram it down my throat and Watchtower and all that. But that's what they're doing, though. That's what YouTube is essentially doing with heliocentrism. They're ramming it down your throat.
Yeah.
Are you still looking for your egg?
Yeah, I
egg
can't
your
believe I
orange?
can't find it. It's like it's gone.
Do you remember what the title was called?
Well, the orange one.
Yeah. Experiment.
I'll just put in orange experiment or RDD orange test Flatzoid.
There's no way that'll find it, surely.
If it does, that'd be so funny.
I'm gonna have to change. If I do change, I'm gonna have to change the thumbnail and title
You know
probably to
what?
make it accessible.
The result I get when I do that RDD orange test Flatzoid, I get Bob the fallacy guy. And the title of the video is Flatzoid and his jerk hell, the experiment. So I'm not getting you, even though what you're naming it. I'm getting Bob
But that's
the
what I'm
fallacy guy.
saying. Everybody else's comes up, but not mine.
Was
Yeah,
it
yeah.
a short, Flats? Was it a short?
It was a video.
No, it would have been a video. Of course, it would have been. Sorry.
Well, I have an orange.
What, do you not title it Video Flats?
Oh no, it's not.
No, I can't remember.
Thought I'd just seen it. It wasn't that.
Go and use search thing, PJ, and type experiment, see if that pulls it up.
Hey, do you want me to do it in real time right now, guys? I got an orange. I could peel it, put it in a glass of water.
You could do, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what happens when you do it for the first time and you've not tested it out to make sure it actually works? It goes wrong. Jaren demonstrates it for us all the time.
I found it. Gravity, the truth revealed. I'm gonna change the thumbnail and title. I think that's the best to do it.
So how long ago was it? Was it over a year ago?
It was a while ago. It was a year ago.
It was last year. It was about this time last year, wasn't it?
Gravity exists because we see it works, yeah? The same as Santa Claus exists, because during Christmas you have presents, so it's evidence for Santa.
You know where you find gravity, right? Gravity does definitely exist, right? If you go into your bedroom at night time at 11 o'clock, right? Open the wardrobe and pull all your clothes and your jackets and all that out of the way so you can see the back of the wardrobe. There's an opening. And when you go into that opening, you go into a land called Narnia. And in Narnia, that's where gravity yeah. That's where it exists. It doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Okay.
Cool place.
This is an orange. We're going to use this for the
I love it
today. I had to take, because you said this is an egg, so that's why I took this is an orange. I had to.
Love it.
I like the hat, Flats. It's a cool hat. It's so perfect for this.
What is postulated? Well, gravity says that if you increase the mass, it will accelerate towards the ground. But what happens if we decrease the mass? Should it
I can tell you what happens.
mean it has more of a
float,
buoyant force acting upon it from the other side, which would cause it to go up? This is going to be an interesting experiment. Let's do this. The scientific method. It's an empirical method strictly there to establish the cause for an effect observed in nature. Step 1. You will observe a natural phenomena. This would be, for instance,
it
an
should
orange
be peel review.
Number 2, you will do your research to see if anybody else has observed this natural phenomena and done any scientific research on this phenomena. Step 3, you create a hypothesis. This would be your postulation on what the cause for the effect is observed in nature. Number 4, you make a prediction. What will the experiment yield? And number 5, you do the actual experiment. This experiment in detail requires you to manipulate the independent variable, which is the cause, to see the dependent variable, which is the effect observed, to happen. If you do not manipulate the independent variable, there is no way to validate if that was the cause for the dependent variable's effect. Yes. And number 6, you analyze the results. This comes after the experiment. Then you take the analyzation of those results and you move on to number 7, which is systematic experimentation. This is experimentation built upon the data from your analysis from the experiment. Then you move on to peer review. Peer review is simply sending the data onto someone else sending it on to your peers to be able to review it, to do the experiment for themselves, and to either validate or invalidate the results. In essence, this is a peer review right now. Okay, let's move on to observe natural phenomena. When an object is no longer supported by someone or something, it will fall, accelerate downwards from the elevation to the ground. So this would be me picking up an orange and letting it go, and it falls to the ground. This is the natural observed phenomena. Number 2, we do research. What was the research based on this phenomena? The research tells us that the cause for this falling acceleration is from the concept named gravity. This concept is very vague and has no actual definition or cause for its origins. There is 2 explanations of this. Newtonian gravity, it's a force. And Einsteinian gravity, it's not a force. Weird, as they both contradict one another, but want to be used in the same pond. Gravity is either explained in 2 ways. It is a force of attraction.
Oh no, sorry, I just my dog was getting his nose too close to my hamburger.
Hey,
You better watch your nose there, boy.
Nice. I didn't know you were here.
Like, you might be able to.
Between 2 masses that accelerate the objects of mass towards each other, or the latter, which is Einstein, it's proposed that there is no force at all. The proposition that the space around the object will warp in the 4th dimension, as adding time with space, creates a conceptual fabric to bend. This bending of the space-time fabric is what causes the uneven distribution of those masses, and thus causes the masses to accelerate towards each other. The argument is that the more mass, the stronger the apparent attractiveness. The larger the mass will always create a larger divot in the surrounding space, and thus the smaller mass will tend to accelerate faster to the larger mass the closer it is. It's as if the mass is following a path over a slope. Another proposed argument is relative density disequilibrium. This postulation is based upon the uneven distribution ratio of the object and the medium that it is submerged in. The object's ratio depends on the medium determined by the relative direction to acceleration. If the medium is able to support the object's displacement, it will accelerate it upward until it finds its relative equilibrium state. If the medium is not able to support the object's displacement, it will accelerate downward till it finds its relative equilibrium state. This proposition is based not on the mass, but the ratio difference between the object and the mass. So in other words, the displacement ratios. The displacement shows the distribution of the pressure over the surface area to give its difference on observation. Just as you would see a huge container ship with thousands of tons able to float on the ocean, and with a bowling ball only a few kilograms able to sink. Now, if we had to flatten out that bowling ball, it would displace enough pressure over the surface that thus it will not sink. This postulation shows that it's not the mass that causes the acceleration, but the distribution based on the ratio between the object and the medium. Number 3, we create the hypothesis. Since the consensus is based on gravity, we will hypothesize and experiment on them first. Let's start with Newtonian gravity. Newtonian's law of gravitation statement that any particle of matter in the universe attracts any other with a force varying directly as a product of the masses and inversely as the square of the distance between them. So in other words, the larger mass will attract the smaller mass more, and the distance between them would give them a different accelerative rate. Create an hypothesis. Still, the mass of an object determines the amount of force the object will be attracted to. It's the largest mass. If it moves the mass, it should show less attractive force and thus not accelerate at the same rate towards the ground as when shown to have more mass. IV, this is the independent variable. IV would be mass. Mass is the cause for the attractive acceleration. dV is the observe the natural phenomena. So it's the dependent variable. It depends on the independent variable. Without manipulating the independent variable, you are not able to get the observed phenomena, which is the dependent variable, the effect. So remember, you have to physically manipulate the mass in this situation to get the effect observed. What is the effect? More mass would show acceleration towards the larger mass. In this case, the ground. So the orange would go downward to the larger mass, which would be Earth, if it's mass that causes the acceleration. The null is the antithesis of the hypothesis. So if it is validated, it means your hypothesis is invalidated. If the null is invalidated, your hypothesis is validated. This is a prove situation. You either prove your hypothesis or you prove your null. No matter how many times you do this experiment, it will always be either proven or disproven. Mass has increased and yet shows not to accelerate to the ground. Number 4, make a prediction. If I remove the mass of the object, in this case the peel around the orange, in the fish tank it will show, based upon the postulation, the orange will have less mass and thus have less attractive force. This postulates that the orange will either remain at the same position or it will go up as the counterbalance forces will be stronger. More mass means down to larger mass. Less mass, same or goes up away from the large mass due to buoyant forces. Experimentation. Fish tank filled with water. Orange with its peel placed inside the water to see if it sinks and its relative position from the placement. Removing the peel is represent less mass of the orange. See if it makes a difference in either its relative position or floats up due to less mass. So in other words, we stick the orange in the water with its peel, it has more mass. If we remove the peel, it now has less mass. The control variables, this is the CV. These are the things that you keep controlled to know that you are keeping a controlled environment for your experiment. The control variables in this experiment are: the water is kept at a constant temperature, water level stays constant, it has the same duration of time lapse, so you see if it's not going to change with a different duration. The same orange was used. I just want to point out, remove air. See what I did, critical think, I had controls, because I understand controls can change the outcome.
Flats, you want to send this to Jaron by chance? He might get something out of it.
Jaron thinks you can get an elevation angle off of a pencil. I don't think he'll understand what's written here.
Well, how?
It's amazing that we have to go through every single step for these globers. Pockets of the exterior of the orange peel, so there wouldn't be any air bubbles holding the orange up to give a null result. And it's kept in the same container. Ah, thank you, Restream. Okay, there we go. This is the orange. Let's submerge it in the water. As you can see, it is floating. This is a bit counterintuitive, as you would think this is the structure where it has the most mass. So therefore it would be needing to attract to the Earth, which would be the larger mass. Maybe it could be the air bubbles in the pores that's holding this up. Let's clean the air bubbles off. See, we're cleaning it off, making sure that there is no air bubbles in, just as the control says. Nope, it's still seeming to float. So definitely not the air bubbles holding the orange up. What do you think will happen when we remove the peel, which is removing the mass? See, I'm cutting the peel off and we're going to peel it off so it has less mass. So
I know.
Based on the gravity.
If there's less mass, it'll float more because weight gets less, right?
Yeah, exactly. Less attractive force, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's what the hypothesis of mass attract mass is.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
Postulation would mean that the orange should now float easier or be even less submerged. Let's see what's going to happen when I've taken the peel off, which is now making it less mass, and sticking it back into the water. Just waiting for me to pull all the extra mass off. There we go, looks nice and clean, you see. Let's drop it in. Oh boy, we already see an issue.
That's the ugliest. Do you know what? That could
There's
pass
an
as
issue
a
here.
planet.
Less It looks mass kind of like a means brain. gone lower. Maybe there's some air bubbles.
It could pass as a planet, couldn't it? In a NASA video.
Okay.
It's gonna blaze straight out.
Bubbles inside.
It's a,
which would
no,
give
sorry,
it
it's a geoid.
Now we've taken that
You're
air
right.
bubbles out. It
That's
seems
what's up.
to have sunk.
Yeah.
So this doesn't show a great result for gravity, does it? This shows strictly that it's the displacement of the object to the medium. This has been shown now to validate relative density disequilibrium. Then we move on to analyze the results.
It also disproves
After
weight.
doing the experiment. Yeah.
It also disproves weight because you cannot have a mass that gets less being much more attracted to the gravitational pull of the Earth. It has to be less. It directly debunks that. So it proves one thing and disproves something else.
Mm-hmm.
The geoid. Yeah,
We
that
were
orange,
able to
orange
observe that
does look
mass
like
is
geoidish.
not the cause for the I acceleration. want to say, thinking of it, I think that was it's not the name of the orange. It's like a mixture of
Blood
an
orange. Blood
you know?
orange. Blood
Blood
orange.
orange. That's it. Yeah. I know I didn't eat it afterwards, guys.
It is definitely the ugliest orange I've ever seen, though.
Also, you don't care about the starving children. I see.
Of course I do.
Right. Is it only my mum that told me that there were starving kids in Biafra? Did you get told Biafra as well?
Yeah, I got told that Biafrans were starving. Yeah, absolutely.
Where is Biafra? Is it actually a thing, or is it my mum just making it up?
No, Biafra is a place, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard of people being called Biafrans because they're thin. Surely,
I'm wondering, did she mean Africa?
I wonder.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, man. I got the shit knocked out of me one time, and I wasn't trying to be a smart ass, but my mom was at the time it was starving kids in Asia, and I did not want whatever it was we was having, and she ran that on me. She goes, "Now, David, there's starving kids over in Asia right now that would love to have that food," and I said, "Well, pack it up and send it to them." I was serious. I mean, they want it. I don't. There's a win-win for everybody, right? Boy, she knocked me right out of that chair.
But the point was Biafra, though. Like, so there was one more. Did anybody else get told Biafra?
I never heard
Yeah,
of
I
it.
did. Yeah, Biafrans in Ethiopians. That was it. So obviously, Ethiopia is a place, but Biafran is obviously not. I always heard that. Like, yeah, if somebody was skinny, we'd say they're like a Biafran.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, what is a Biafran, or is it just a word?
So am I now, because I'm trying to look for it and I can't.
Maybe
I typed in
it was
Biafra and it's telling me about North and South American Asian bears.
This might be an example of the
like a slang for Black African.
Maybe it is something like that. I didn't know that. I actually thought it was a place, man.
I thought it were a place. Like, Cockneys are from London, right? Biafrans are from wherever they're from.
Exactly. It looks like it's not.
This could be a Mandela effect, though, because I was definitely told that as a kid.
Me too. I used to say it. I said it myself quite a lot.
So there's no Biafrans, is what you're saying, right?
Maybe so. I may be spelling it wrong. I don't. Right, let me just try.
Hold on a minute, because I've been in chat like, so I've been half listening. Are you trying to tell me that there's no such word as Biafran?
Yeah, there's no place. Biafra.
Did you not get told the starving kids in Biafra?
Yeah. Yeah, we used to say it. Skinny. Skinny's a Biafran or whatever. I'm just trying to find and see if that's a thing.
My grandpa used to tell me it was Ethiopians that were like starving.
We always called Biafran, like.
Yeah.
Well, don't be an African. You know?
It does make me wonder where my mum got that from when I was a kid, because obviously it was like 40 years ago. But ultimately, like, if my mum,
Yeah.
she must have heard it on the news, right? What was the story of Biafrans?
Oh, right. Listen, right. Entomology, the skinny sense is a reference to the images of extremely skinny Biafran refugees from Nigerian civil war that appeared plentiful in the English language media in 1960s, 1970s. So it's from, I don't know if it's meant to be, it's from the Nigerian civil war, but whether it's there is a, right, from Biafra. Yeah, there is a place, Biafra. There is, because this is where tell me the etymology of like skinny, like a Biafran. So it comes from Nigerian civil war. So there must be a place Biafra. Yeah, from Biafra.
Or a tribe, or it's a tribe in Ethiopia.
Do they speak Biafran there? Biafricans?
Rural Biafrans, a native of inhabitant of Biafra. Yes, sorry, there is a place Biafra.
Sounds
Biafra.
like
I
some
spell
kind
it.
of
I spell it wrongly.
Sounds like some kind of headache medication, you know. Biafran.
Yeah, it does. It does.
You got a migraine? Try Biafran.
Right, I'm just trying to.
It's like Bear aspirin almost. Biafricon, Biaspirin. Yeah, pretty funny.
Buffering.
So
Got
yeah,
my A's and my B's are mixing together. I got to get that fixed.
So
Remember
unfortunately,
them commercials? Remember those commercials they'd show you with the A's and the B's running through your body and shit? You know, one was aspirin, one was buffering. I was like, oh, my A's and B's are all out of shot, man. They're screwed up.
So anyway, unfortunately, guys are gonna have to end the show. Yeah, at least tomorrow night we're gonna have a longer show because it's a Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't kill some people because people are allergic to salicylants. So if they don't get enough, if they don't get fast enough to the hospital, they're dead.
Flatzoid. We'll have to watch that video I sent you the link to. I've not seen it myself, but someone sent it to me.
Yeah, people telling me all over I should watch it. So I think we'll do that tomorrow night. It's the chat with Dave Weiss and
Shiva.
Yeah,
I watched it.
I didn't like Shiva. He's just rough, man. No.
I didn't watch it.
I talked to him once.
I didn't like him, right? But the fact is, right, if you're a flat earther and you're going on big channels, at least know what you're talking about or don't bother. Otherwise,
Yeah, but I think Dave's one of those guys like Brian, where he's got words that no one else uses, but he likes them. So he'll use words that are just nonsense to everybody else to make us look stupid. It's like Dave. Does he talk about ether? I'm assuming there's an ether reference in there somewhere.
No, I didn't hear that. No.
I talked to Shiva probably about a year and a half ago or so. And I hit him with some flat earth shit. Boy, he didn't want to hear none of it. He didn't want to hear it. Yeah.
Now he's more open. He's going to get people from MIT. We will see if it works. But with Dave, they're going to create the real experiment. So they will be checking a few times, few things, and they will sort it out. They'll make a peer review and so on. That's what they said.
Probably the worst people to get are academics.
Yeah.
The big thing with Dave when he does interviews is conspiracies. He likes to throw those around a lot, and it makes us look like all conspiracy theorists for the most part. I think that's where people associate it with.
The thing that irritates me with Dave Weiss is he plays both sides of the fence.
Coin, yeah, he's on both sides of the fence.
He's a fence sitter. He takes one side of what suits him now, and then he goes to the other side. The guy.
It's called disinformation agents. It's an intentional act by somebody that's deliberately trying to confuse people.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Rule for me: never trust people with crooked nose.
What about people that broke their nose before?
I know. I was going to say mine's a little bit crooked here. And there.
Same very popular so-called truther, stupiders. The same crap.
But yeah, guys, any closing statements?
Not really. It was a decent stream.
Yeah, I've got one. That orange, if it loses its mass, it has to go up. But it didn't go up, did it, guys? So what's the explanation on your working model, eh?
Oh, you just turn upside down. This is the water, that's why.
Yeah. Anthony, it starts with a B. It's buoyancy. That's the explanation for everything.
Beyonce. Is that not something to do with Jay-Z?
Beyonce, yeah.
Beyonce. Is she buoyant?
Are you trying to say stuff falls because of Beyonce? You got that big old booty?
She thought ass first.
That's it, exactly.
Beyonce. Buoyancy, Beyonce. Mind you, she's quite buoyant, her.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say her butt. She would drown though, because her butt would be at the top, but her head would be underneath. She would drown.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Ass first.
She needs implants in the front side, guys, so she float up. Yeah.
That statement right there goes right along with the checks in the mail. Two big myths.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to my Cavendish 2.0 this year, so it's going to be good.
Groovy.
So, yeah,
I'm looking forward to that observation, the 150-mile one. I want to see it.
Almost. I'm just waiting for confirmation on the date. And then, we'll be showing that. It's definitely going to be awesome. So make sure to book your calendars whenever this month. But
check off whenever.
Let's just put it this way. It's so awesome that at 150 miles, he has to pan up to see something.
Wow.
That's a long way.
Panning up at 150 miles. Something's supposed to be a few miles below the surface of Earth.
Kind of.
So Anyway, thanks all for coming. I appreciate you all. It was a great show. Sorry I have to take it go. Appreciate all the likes, all the shares, and the super chats. But I need some sleep. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have an awesome long show. Make sure to catch PJ. And I think Roger's also having a show later. And Solve you too, I think.
Friday, tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Sleep is overrated. Don't do that.
I need it. I average about 25 Ks a day just in the booth and paint room.
I sleep around 3-4 hours a day. That's enough for me. Since
25 Ks, 25 what? Kilometers?
Yeah, that's what I average a day. I do about
walking on a spray booth.
It's spray booths in England.
25 kilometers. That's like 15 miles, right?
I got you beat.
It's about 30,000 steps a day.
I'm calling nonsense on that. 15 miles in a spray booth. I'm not having that.
Flats. I get 3,000 miles a day according to my counter on the phone I got. I don't believe it, but just walking all over Walmart.
Yeah, you're definitely not doing 3,000 miles a day, bro.
And I just want to say this is with my phone on charge sometime during the day as well. So it's not always in my pocket. That's why I say if you want to lose weight, become a spray painter, guys.
It's because those fumes don't hurt. Those fumes don't hurt none either. I'll tell you.
I can't smell anymore, so.
Yeah. He must have shorter legs, Anthony, so it takes more steps. That's what it is.
I do have shorter legs.
And I'm too old.
He redefines the term kilometer into something else. Yeah. Kilometers really centimeters. So 15 centimeters a day.
Nice.
Yeah.
The funny thing about my Apple phone, it automatically counts my steps everywhere. So probably all day long. So that's a lot of miles. Though.
Yeah. Okay. So cheers, guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you for coming. Many blessings. May the Christian be with you. Ta-ta.
Bye, guys.
Made for something true. In God's plan, my path renews. Fly